Chapter 5995. But why did I hear that he took it back? That's just Xiao Soa's trick to scare people. Hearing this, Bai Li Fan was slightly taken aback, but he quickly accepted this answer. I see. I've said that the possibility of taking it back is too small. Bai Li Fan sighed and frowned again. In that case, won't this matter be even more troublesome? Bai Li Hongzhuang chuckled and shook her head. Xiao Soa's wishful thinking may fall through. Don't worry, things aren't that bad. Bai Li Fan looked deeply at Bai Li Hongzhuang. After seeing her confident appearance, his heart was completely at ease. He trusted the family head very much, even if the family head was so young, and even his son Tianheng was older than the family head. He knew very well how much power the young family head could unleash. The main reason I came back this time is to tell you about the family's future plans. I have a lot of things to do, so I can't stay here too often. However, if you have anything to say, send someone to inform me. I'll definitely deal with it as soon as possible. Bai Li Hongzhuang reminded. Bai Li Fan smiled and nodded. His heart was filled with gratitude. Thank you, family head. This is my responsibility. Bai Li Hongzhuang smiled faintly and stared at Bai Li Fan. In my heart, the Bai Li family is my family. The family's matters are my matters. I hope you can understand this and truly treat me as a member of the Bai Li family. Looking at those sincere and serious eyes, Bai Li Fan's heart was filled with shock. However, he also understood that there were some mistakes in his way of thinking. I understand. While Bai Li Hongzhuang and the rest stayed at the Bai Li family, the Xiao family was in a different situation. Xiao Sou had always wanted to visit the Jun family, but a few days ago, she heard that some of the Jun family's cultivators had already returned. However, Jun Lingxuan had yet to return. This news didn't make her too worried. The other cultivators had all returned, so how could Jun Lingxuan not return? She had begun to think of marrying Qing Devil as soon as possible. After all, she was already Qing Devil's woman. Moreover, with Qing Devil's strength, he would definitely go to the Crossing Immortal Domain, or even the Immortal Domain in the future. For her, it was a strange place full of yearning. For Qing Devil, it used to be his hometown. When she heard Shu Yu's master talk about the Crossing Immortal Domain, she was very envious and hoped that she could go there herself one day. Shu Yu had merely gone to the celestial realm, yet he already had a transcendent status in the upper realm. If she had gone to the celestial realm, wouldn't that be even more impressive? With that in mind, Xiao Sou went to look for Xiao Yanlong. Father, we are anxious to wait here all the time. Why don't we go directly to the Jun family? She had been waiting here all the time, because she couldn't hold back the anxiety in her heart. After going to the Jun family, if Qing Devil came back, she would be the first to know. Seeing Xiao Sou's anxious look, Xiao Yanlong was a little surprised. He vaguely felt that his daughter seemed to have special feelings for Qing Devil. If it was only for interests, Soa shouldn't care so much. However, no matter what the purpose was, it didn't matter if they went to the Jun family. On the contrary, it could shorten the distance between them and the Jun family. Chapter 5996. Seeing that Xiao Yanlong agreed, Xiao Sou also breathed a sigh of relief. She really couldn't wait any longer. What she was most worried about now was whether the Qing Devil would want to come to the Jun family. However, according to their previous conversation, such an environment would not do any harm to the Azure Fiend, so he should be willing to come. All these things made her a little confused for a while. The only thing she was sure of was that she wanted to see the Qing Devil. When Xiao Sudong heard that Xiao Sou was going to the Jun family, he didn't choose to go with her. Recently, his mood was very complicated, and he couldn't even concentrate on his cultivation. He began to miss the past. Before he became an ally with the Jun family, both his father and sister were not like this. At that time, many people said that the Jun family did things by hook or by crook. At that time, he also had the same idea. However, all the things that happened later were beyond his expectations. Even if he wanted to change, he had no chance. And now he found that his father and sister had been assimilated by the Jun family. He was still powerless to change all this. The most important thing was that when he saw that Di Baichen was open and above board, and had so many friends, he couldn't help but envy him. In fact, putting everything aside, he also admired Di Baichen very much. It was just that the positions of the two sides were completely different. The more outstanding Di Baichen was, the greater the threat to them. He hoped that Jun Lingxuan was such a person. Then they wouldn't have fallen into such a situation. However, Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang seemed to have extraordinary talent in this regard. Even Di Xiaofeng couldn't do this at that time. In just a few years, he had already gained a firm foothold here, and had so many friends. All these were things that they couldn't envy. He couldn't be the only one who envied this. When Jun Hongqing knew that Xiao Yanlong and Xiao Sou had come, a big smile appeared on his face. In fact, as the waiting time became longer and longer, he was a little uncertain in his heart. He was only worried that something unexpected would happen in the process. If Ling Sun was unable to return, he was also worried that the relationship with the Xiao family would be severed because of this. At that time, the Jun family would be in an even more difficult situation. This was obviously something he didn't want to see, but based on the current situation, he couldn't take the initiative to contact the Xiao clan. However, now that Xiao Yanlong and the other two had taken the initiative to come, and were so concerned about Ling Sun's situation, it made him feel a wave of warmth, and he completely heaved a sigh of relief. Hongcheng, Ling Sun hasn't returned yet? When Xiao Yanlong saw Jun Hongcheng, he smiled and greeted him. After the two sides formed an alliance, he came to the Jun family very freely, and did not feel restrained at all. A hint of helplessness flashed across Jun Hongcheng's face when he heard that. He sighed and nodded. Ling Sun hasn't returned yet. Perhaps he was delayed by something on the way. A hint of disappointment flashed in Xiao Sou's eyes. She had hoped to see Azure Demon when she arrived. Although she didn't know Qing Devil for long, she couldn't forget everything that happened in the ancient battlefield. Especially when she heard Qing Devil talk about the immortal realm, she was filled with endless yearning. It was too difficult to go to the immortal realm with her own strength. She could only reach there smoothly if she was with Qing Devil. Chapter 5997. Jun Hongcheng did not ignore the disappointment and eagerness on Xiao Sou's face, and immediately became even more satisfied with his future daughter-in-law. At that time, Ling Sun spent a lot of effort to pursue Xiao Sou, and he was not sure whether Xiao Sou agreed to the engagement because the Di family was hopeless, or because she really liked Ling Sun. Now it seemed that his original worries were unnecessary. His son was still very charming. No matter what the reason was at the beginning, at least now Xiao Sou must be sincere to Ling Sun. The current situation made him feel more depressed than when he was suppressed by the Di family many years ago. At least the Di family had always been in a stable state, and not like now when they were in the limelight. If Xiao Sou's position as the Holy Maiden of Light had not been snatched away, then the current situation would not have fallen to this point. Unfortunately, the heavens did not fulfill people's wishes, and no one expected such a situation to occur. Is Master also here? Xiao Sou asked aloud. Jun Hongqing pointed to the back and said, he is in the back courtyard, go and pay him a visit. Xiao Sou nodded, and immediately walked towards the back. As she learned more about the immortal domain, she wanted to know more about the new face of the immortal domain. The immortal domain, just this name alone was full of endless attraction. Although her master had not been to the real immortal domain, he had been to the immortal domain, so he could be considered a half-immortal. Maybe after this incident, she could learn more about the immortal domain from her master. When he saw Xiao Sou, he was not surprised at all, and his expression was gentle and calm. So you are here. Greetings, master. Xiao Sou bowed respectfully. It seems that Ling Sun has not returned yet. Xu Yu's eyes swept over. Since only Xiao Sou came, it proved that there was no news about Jun Lingxuan. Xiao Sou nodded slightly. I think he should be delayed by something, so he did not come back. Hearing this, Xu Yu looked at Xiao Sou meaningfully and said, you're worried that he doesn't want to come back, right? As soon as he said this, Xiao Sou's expression suddenly changed. After a quick flash of panic, she forced herself to calm down. There was a trace of guilt in her voice. Master, what do you mean? It's impossible to reverse the process of possession. Xu Yu's expression was calm. After hearing the news from the cultivators who returned this time, He already knew the real situation. Since the Qing devil admitted that she had possessed his body, it proved that Jun Lingxuan had died long ago. It was impossible for her to take back the initiative. He had been to the crossing celestial region before. Unlike the cultivators in the upper realm, who rarely came into contact with possession, he was very familiar with it. When he first found out, he was very puzzled by Xiao Soa's reaction. After thinking about it carefully, he guessed the reason for her actions. Most importantly, at this moment, after seeing Xiao Soa's expression, he seemed to understand a little more. Xiao Soa looked flustered, her eyes kept flickering, and her palms were quickly sweating. She unconsciously lowered her head, and her mind was rapidly searching for a way to deceive this point. Even if she made up this kind of thing flawlessly, it was still possible to deceive family head June and the others. However, if she wanted to deceive her master, it was indeed too difficult. Previously, she had thought of everything too simply and had completely forgotten about this point. Chapter 5998. Master, Xiao Soa said hurriedly but was interrupted by Shu Yu. Say no more. I know what you're thinking. Xiao Soa's heart skipped a beat. Everything would be over once her master told others. All the plans they had thought of before would turn into bubbles, and there would be no more hope. I won't interfere with the decision you've made. I won't say much about it either. Just think about it carefully. Xiao Soa, who was worrying about how to solve this big problem, was stunned after hearing Shu Yu's words. She subconsciously wondered if she had misheard. Did her master want to keep it a secret for her? Master? Shu Yu looked indifferent. I know it's not easy for you. You just have to make your own plans. I won't get involved. After getting a positive answer, Xiao Soa breathed a sigh of relief, and her heart settled down. Thank you, Master. The reason why I mention this is to give you a few words of advice. People in the immortal realm are not simple. If you don't know Qing Devil's character, you have to be careful. Shu Yu looked at Xiao Soa with a complicated expression. For so many years, he had not accepted any disciples. He was quite satisfied with his two disciples, Xiao Soa and Jun Lingxuan. However, he did not expect that such a change would happen after he went to the ancient battlefield. Nowadays, he had become indifferent to many things. Everyone knew about the conflicts, and even intrigues between aristocratic families. Jun Lingxuan was no longer around. He just hoped that Xiao Soa could live well. Master, don't worry. Xiao Soa was moved. I've been in contact with Qing Devil for some time. I know his character. He has no evil intentions towards me. With Qing Devil's strength, it was not difficult for him to kill her. However, Qing Devil did not want to kill her. This was what she was most confident about. Noticing Xiao Soa's sparkling eyes, Shu Yu understood her thoughts. He didn't say anything more. Everyone had their own judgment. Bailey Hongzhuang's group stayed with the Bailey family for 7 days before leaving. During this time, Bailey Hongzhuang had a general understanding of what had happened in the Bailey family. Bai Li Fan and the others seized this opportunity to ask many questions, and Bailey Hongzhuang answered them one by one. Whether it was Bai Li Fan or the group of elders, they were all deeply impressed by Bailey Hongzhuang's ability. She was clearly so young, and she rarely interfered with the family's affairs. But when it came to solving it, she was so handy. No matter how complicated the problem was, she could always find the root of the problem and come up with a solution. Most of the time, his answers made everyone's eyes light up. In addition, Bailey Hongzhuang was also very happy to guide the family's disciples in their cultivation. Of course, as long as someone asked for advice on alchemy or medicine, she would not be stingy. In just 7 days, the Bailey family's cultivators felt that they had gained a lot. This kind of harvest was something that they would have to spend a lot of time to achieve on a normal day. If possible, they really hoped that the family head could stay in the family for a while longer. Then all of them would be greatly improved. At the same time, they also understood that the family head was very busy and could not stay here all the time. Chapter 5999. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't urge the doctors from the Bailey family to return to the D family. They hadn't been back for a long time, so it was only right for them to stay a little longer. However, when they were about to leave, The doctors who still wanted to return to the D family to study also followed the group. Although they wanted to reunite with their families, everyone was working hard for the sake of their family. How could they slack off? Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang revealed a trace of satisfaction in her eyes. With such a firm heart, she believed that their future path would be even smoother. After thinking it over, Lan Yunxiao and the others decided not to stay in the Bailey family. They knew that if they stayed here, they wouldn't have to worry about anything. However, Hongzhuang spent most of her time in the D family. They also hoped to see more of Hongzhuang. Moreover, when they first went to the D family, they felt very uncomfortable. However, as time passed, they became more familiar with the D family and didn't feel too distant. Most importantly, they needed to increase their strength as soon as possible. Only by cultivating in the D family's cultivation room could they increase their strength faster. Even if no one urged them on a daily basis, that sense of urgency had never disappeared. Right now, they only felt that they were a burden and couldn't help at all. However, everyone's mentality was very calm. At least, they would do their best, and the gap between them would gradually shrink. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were naturally very happy with Lan Yunxiao and the others' decision. They had been looking forward to this result. Although it was very convenient to travel between the Bailey family and the D family, it wasn't as convenient as staying in the D family. After returning to the D family, Di Beichen also asked about the Jun family's situation. It's said that Jun Lingxuan hasn't returned to the Jun family yet. It seems that the nine-tailed Inferno Fox's judgment was right. The Qing Devil must still be in the ancient battlefield. Di Beichen's lips curled into a playful and devilish smile. His incomparably handsome face suddenly exuded endless charm. Just one look from him was enough to captivate a person's soul. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved slightly. This is good news for us. The Jun family hasn't given up yet. It's said that Xiao Souo has gone directly to the Jun family to wait. Di Xiaofeng raised his eyebrows. I'm really curious about their expressions when they find out that Jun Lingxuan won't be coming back. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone looked at each other with a sly smile in their eyes. Inside the room, the woman was wearing a white dress and was lying lazily on the bench. Her long dress flowed elegantly, and her hair was also wantonly scattered. Against her fair and sparkling skin, it was like a picture scroll. Bailey Hongzhuang had one hand behind her head, and the other hand was holding a scroll, casually reading it. The faint warm sun shone on her body, adding a trace of gentleness and warmth. When Di Beichen walked into the room and saw this scene, his heart seemed to melt for a moment. He slowly walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's side and reached out to pick her up, letting her lean on his legs. Looking down at that perfect and exquisite face, his eyes were full of gentleness. Wife, what are you looking at? Bailey Hongzhuang found a comfortable position in Di Beichen's arms and narrowed her eyes in satisfaction. That gentle and lazy appearance was like a cat, exuding endless charm. Chapter 6000. Di Beichen took the scroll and raised his eyebrows slightly. This is what the Qing Devil was talking about. Yes. He carefully examined the scroll in his hand. This scroll looked very old, as if it had been worn down by endless time. It had a heavy feeling of history. The material of the scroll was also very special. It was very comfortable to touch, as soft and smooth as warm jade. Looking at the scroll, she felt that it would disappear if she touched it casually. However, after touching it, she realized that it was not as fragile as it looked. Since the Qing Devil cares so much about this scroll, it must be something extraordinary. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. She looked up at the handsome face and suddenly felt that Beichen was really good-looking. No matter how she looked at him, he was so good-looking that she blushed and her heart beat faster. Even though she had been with Beichen for so long, she never got tired of looking at him. On the contrary, the feeling of being attracted to him had never disappeared. I have been busy since I came back, so I didn't have time to look at this carefully. Since I have time today, I want to see what it is. Did you find anything? Di Beichen touched Bailey Hongzhuang's soft hair gently, as if he was touching a rare treasure. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head slightly. There is a layer of restriction on it. I have tried many ways, but I can't see the content clearly. She was sure that this scroll must come from the immortal area. Although she didn't know what the Qing Devil's level was in the immortal area, it should be more extraordinary than the things in the upper world. Di Baichen also noticed that there were many words on the scroll, but he couldn't see them clearly. This situation was not strange. There must be a special way to open such a mysterious scroll. Don't worry. We will figure it out eventually. Di Baichen smiled faintly. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. She didn't care too much about this scroll. The main reason why she kept it was to prevent the Qing Devil from getting what he wanted. As for the way to open it, maybe they would know it when they arrived at the immortal area. Has Yunjue finished his closed-door training? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Since they came back, all the cultivators had been resting. The trip to the ancient battlefield was really tiring. Moreover, everyone's cultivation had improved a lot. It was normal for them to relax for a while. Xiren and Shangguan Yingying went to the Emperor Cloud City a few days ago, saying that they wanted to eat all the good things that they hadn't eaten for a while. When they heard. And they hadn't come back. Only Mo Yunjue went into seclusion after he came back. Everyone admired him for his hard work. Not yet, but it should be soon. Di Baichen smiled faintly. When he breaks through, he will come out. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded gently. When they came back, they heard Yunjue say that he was very close to breaking through, so they wanted to break through in one go. When Yunjue breaks through and Xiren and Shangguan Yingying come back, let's go to the abandoned immortal forest. We haven't been back since the last time we left. I wonder how Granny Hua and the others are doing. Zhongli Mu's strength should be more terrifying. Chapter 6001. I think it's boring for you to stay at home. Why don't we go to the Emperor Cloud City to find Xiren and the others? Di Baichen smiled. Granny Hua and the others love snacks the most. We can also buy some. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately sat up straight and nodded with a sweet smile. Okay, then let's go now. Emperor Cloud City. As the city closest to the Di family, it was inextricably linked to the Di family. Emperor Cloud City was extremely lively on weekdays. And now with the Di family's reputation becoming more and more famous, more and more people came to the Emperor Cloud City. When Bailey Hongzhuang arrived, they were surprised to find that the Emperor Cloud City was even more lively than before. People were coming and going, and it was full of laughter. Let's go see Huang Futing first. Di Baichen raised his eyebrows. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Di Baichen naturally took Bailey Hongzhuang's hand and walked forward. Since he told his father about his plan, his father had sent people to start building the Dark Sacred Assembly not far from the Emperor Cloud City. Huang Futing and the others were now his followers. Naturally, he couldn't let them stay in the ruined temple like before. At the very least, they should have a more comfortable residence. Although this didn't seem like much, it was a completely different feeling. He hoped that everyone would no longer feel homeless. On the contrary, they would feel more at home. Looking at the huge black building in front of them, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with shock and surprise. This building was extremely wide and round, exuding a heavy and mysterious aura. It was surrounded by mountains and forests. Although it was outside, it wasn't far from the Emperor Cloud City. On the contrary, this location gave off a sense of leisure. The whole building was majestic and spectacular. Di Yujue's work was also very impressive. Just from every detail, one could see that it took a lot of effort to build the headquarters of the Dark Sacred Assembly. At present, the Dark Sacred Assembly had not been officially established yet, so there was no sign hanging here. After all, before Di Baichen prepared everything, if this news was spread, it was inevitable that someone would come to cause trouble. This was not something they wanted to see. Di Baichen also looked at the building in shock, and his heart was filled with emotions. Before he left the family, he had only told his father about his thoughts. In fact, he had planned to prepare everything himself, but he didn't expect that he would suddenly have to go out and train, so he could only leave everything to his father. However, he did not expect his father to complete everything so well. It was almost the same as what he had planned. Wife, from now on, this will be the headquarters of the Dark Sacred Assembly. Di Baichen turned to look at her. His deep eyes were as dazzling as the stars. Bailey Hongzhuang saw a firm conviction in his eyes. This will definitely be the most sensational event in the upper realm. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. As her vision gradually broadened, her confidence in this matter became even stronger. In Di Baichen's mind, he couldn't help but think of the scene when his master had talked to him about this matter. He had promised to give the dark attribute cultivators more space to live, to let them live a dignified life, and not be looked at with strange eyes by others. Now this plan had begun. In the near future, he believed that this matter would be completed. Chapter 6002. Huang Futing and the rest walked out after noticing that there were people outside. Ever since they came here, their hearts had been filled with gratitude. When they first sought help from Di Baichen, everyone only thought that they had to work hard for Di Baichen. However, during this period of time, they had not done anything for Di Baichen at all. On the contrary, it was the other party who had been contributing. Whether it was the cultivation resources, the current residents, or the various care in the ancient battlefield, it was all Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang who helped them. On the contrary, they did not contribute anything. Now they no longer had many concerns like before. They only had one thought, and that was to work hard for the young master willingly. No matter what the young master asked them to do, they would go through fire and water without hesitation. When everyone walked outside and saw the two familiar figures, smiles appeared on their faces. Young master, madam, Huang Futing hurried over. Everyone had thought about how to address Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. In the end, they followed the way the Di family addressed them. To them, Di Baichen was not only their president in the future, but also their leader. Seeing the familiar faces, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen were also delighted. You're all here. After the young master told us the news, we came over immediately. Huang Futing smiled faintly. Thank you, young master and madam. Everyone bowed together. Perhaps in the eyes of others, having a stable residence was nothing. However, for people like them who did not have a fixed residence, this feeling was too long since they had such a feeling. They had not felt at ease for a long time. Many of the thoughts in their hearts could not be expressed in words. The only thing they could say was the word thank you. In the future, this will be the headquarters of the Sacred Assembly. What do you all think? Di Baichen slowly walked into the Sacred Assembly. He realized that it was extremely spacious inside, and the layout and design were very considerate. Obviously, his father must have found a skilled craftsman to specially design it. Young master, this place is really great. Yes, not only is it spacious, but the design is also very good. I've been to the headquarters of other guilds before, and our place is much better than theirs. Excitement appeared on everyone's faces at the same time. Even now, they were still immersed in such joy, looking forward to the day when the Dark Sacred Assembly was established. Di Baichen nodded slightly and said, during this period of time, all of you can cultivate here in peace. Once we're done with the preparations, we can announce this news. As soon as he said that, everyone's breathing quickened. After waiting for so long, this day had finally arrived. When the time comes, I will inform you. Everyone prepare yourselves. Di Baichen's eyes were bright and dazzling like diamonds. Huangfu, it's time for our brothers to come back. I hope that everyone will be here on the day the Sacred Assembly is established. I understand. Huang Futing nodded, and he couldn't conceal the excitement on his face. Suddenly, Di Baichen seemed to have thought of something and said, before that, you have to do something first. Young master, feel free to tell me. I will definitely settle this matter properly. Chapter 6003. Hearing Di Baichen's words, Huang Futing's body trembled, and his expression froze for a moment, but his eyes gradually turned red. Young master, Di Baichen smiled faintly. We already know about your matter. She has been waiting for you for so long. It's time to go and pick her up. Bailey Hongzhuang also looked at Huang Futing with a smile. From the conversation in the ancient battlefield, They already understood that the woman had sacrificed too much for Huang Futing. Now that the Dark Sacred Assembly was about to be established, Dark Attribute cultivators would no longer have to live in hiding like before. Only by bringing her over would Huang Futing be truly happy. Huang Futing suppressed the feeling of tears in his eyes. In fact, this had always been a part of his heart that he did not have the courage to touch. Ever since he learned about her recent situation, he could not help but think of her whenever he was alone. On the day the Dark Sacred Assembly was established, he also wanted her to see it with her own eyes. "Thank you, young master." Huang Futing's expression was serious, and his voice was mixed with more emotions than usual. At the same time, the other cultivators present also revealed joyful smiles. "Brother Huangfu, you can do it. We're all waiting for sister-in-law to come back." Before they found the young master, Huang Futing was their leader. If Huang Futing had not gathered them together, their lives would have been even more difficult. More importantly, Huang Futing led all of them to find the young master, which was why they had their current lives. Usually, everyone could feel that he would be depressed sometimes. Originally, everyone only thought that it was because of the family, but now it seemed that he had always been thinking about someone. Looking at the familiar and amiable faces around him, the smile on Huang Futing's face became more and more brilliant. Then, he nodded heavily, and his smile was free and easy. "Don't worry, I'll definitely bring her back." Everyone cheered, and at this moment, everyone felt happy from the bottom of their hearts. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang looked around the Dark Sacred Assembly, and the more they looked, the more satisfied they were. As the head of an aristocratic family, Di Yujue was very familiar with these things. Everything was designed in an orderly manner, and no one could find any problems with it. After the two of them left the Dark Sacred Assembly's headquarters, they continued to search for Xiren and Shengguan Yingying. With Xiren and Yingying's gluttonous nature, they should be in some restaurant at this time, right? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the bustling streets. It was already noon, and the sun had become scorching hot. Di Beichen smiled faintly. Xiao He and Xiao Bai are also following them. We just have to follow their auras. The two of them walked forward, and it didn't take long for them to sense Xiao He and Xiao Bai's auras. After taking a closer look, wasn't it the restaurant in front of them? When Bailey Hongzhuang and Shengguan Yingying arrived, they found that Xiren and Shengguan Yingying had ordered a table of good wine and dishes. Opposite them were Xiao He and Xiao Bai, and the two people and two beasts' faces were filled with excitement. "I guess that you must be having a meal." Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled and quickly walked forward. "Hongzhuang." Shengguan Yingying was overjoyed. "Why are you here? Come and sit down. The taste of this restaurant's food is really amazing." "Master." Xiao He turned into a white light and directly pounced into Bailey Hongzhuang's arms, excitedly rubbing against her body. "Master, I missed you so much." Chapter 6004. With Master here, I'm so happy that I forget about home. Xiao He leaned into Bailey Hongzhuang's arms, her little face full of seriousness. "Tisk tsk tsk." Shengguan Yingying poked Xiao He with her chopsticks. Who was it that said that if she could eat so happily every day, she would rather stay here forever? Xiao He turned her head and glared angrily at Shengguan Yingying, who had exposed her, then looked innocently at Bailey Hongzhuang. "I don't know who Yingying is talking about." "Ha ha ha." Shengguan Yingying laughed. She liked Xiao He's playful look. Bailey Hongzhuang rubbed Xiao He's head. "Come on, do you think I don't know your personality? You can't walk when you see good food. If you really missed me, you would have come looking for me after playing outside for so many days." Hee hee. Xiao He smiled embarrassedly. "I actually guessed that Master would come looking for me today, so I waited here obediently. Wouldn't it be terrible if I went the wrong way?" Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't be bothered to listen to this little girl's nonsense. After sitting down with Xiao He in her arms, she noticed that Bai Li Yin Che and Ling weren't here. At the same time, Di Beichen's voice rang out. Where did Yin Che and Ling go? As soon as he said this, when Xiren and Shengguan Yingying looked at each other, and their expressions became very interesting. Speaking of this matter, It's a bit complicated. What happened? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows a little puzzled. Logically speaking, it should be impossible for anything dangerous to happen in Emperor Yun City. What's more, if there really was danger, Xiren and Shengguaning wouldn't be eating so leisurely. Yin Che really has good luck with women. Xiren raised his eyebrows, his cultured and refined face filled with a gossipy expression. Shengguaning continued. You also know how lethal Yin Che's looks are. When we were walking with Yin Che earlier, all the unmarried girls on the road were secretly throwing flirtatious glances at him. Even married ladies couldn't help but take a few more glances at him. Along the way, as long as it was a female, their eyes were filled with love. That scene, you guys didn't see it. It was simply a miracle. Xiren shook his head and sighed. Even now, when he thought about it, he was still amazed. Is it that exaggerated? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and subconsciously looked at Di Beichen. Yin Che's handsomeness was obvious to all. Not to mention Di Yin City. Even in the Di family, there were many girls who admired him. They were already accustomed to this matter. But Yingying and Shengguaning were exaggerating a little. Beichen's looks were not inferior to Yin Che's. Although there were many people paying attention to them along the way, it wasn't that shocking. You don't need to look at Beichen. Xiren put down his chopsticks and said, You two are a well-known couple, especially in Emperor Yun City. Who doesn't know how much you love each other? A married man and an unmarried man have different lethality. Shengguan Yingying nodded in agreement. What's more, you're the holy maiden of the light. Who would dare steal your man? Wouldn't that be courting death? Bailey Hongzhuang was startled. Now that I think about it, what you said makes sense. Of course. Shengguan Yingying looked proud. What does this have to do with Yin Che not being here? Chapter 6005. Haha, that's the most important point. Xiren chuckled. You know how frightening Yin Che is, so it's inevitable that girls would throw themselves at him. It's not like what you're saying. Shengguan Yingying glanced sideways at Xiren, a hint of disdain in her expression. Then she said seriously, Actually, this is a story of a hero saving a damsel in distress. Bailey Hongzhuang and Shengguan Yingying finally understood what was going on after when Xiren and Shengguan Yingying's narration. It turned out that on their way to the restaurant, Yin Che saw a girl being bullied by a thug, so he stepped in to save her. That girl was quite pitiful. Her stepmother had sold her to a thug, so Yin Che took out some money and gave it to the thug, writing off the matter once and for all. Yin Che thought that the matter was over. But just as he was about to leave, that girl proposed to follow Yin Che. In my opinion, that girl must be in love with Yin Che. Shengguan Yingying smiled faintly. If it were me, and I was in such a difficult situation, and a handsome, and rich man saved me, I would definitely be willing to give myself to him. Xiren raised his eyebrows and asked with narrowed eyes. Then why didn't you give yourself to me when I saved you before? Haven't I already given myself to you? Shengguan Yingying chuckled. Besides, it's not like I don't have anywhere to go given my situation. Yin Che didn't agree, did he? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Yin Che had been with her since he was young. As a beast king, there were many times when he was cold, but he still had a kind heart. Saving someone was completely within her expectations. If she and Beichen were in the same situation, they would have also stepped in to save them. But that girl wanted to follow them, so this matter was a little complicated. As expected of brother and sister, you even guessed Yin Che's reaction. Shengguan Yingying gave her a thumbs up. Yin Che didn't do anything, but that girl's foothold has become a problem. Think about it. If her stepmother can betray her once, she can betray her a second time. She can't be lucky enough to be saved every time, right? So, Yin Che and Linger went to help her find a place to stay? Di Beichen asked with raised eyebrows. That seems to be the case. Xiren nodded. Speaking of which, the most interesting thing isn't this, but Linger's attitude. Haha. Shengguan Yingying couldn't help but laugh. Isn't Linger usually very cold? But she's different today. How is it different? Bailey Hongzhuang also had a hint of curiosity in her eyes. Linger usually didn't care about many things. Usually, when she encountered such things, she would definitely not care about it. But if this matter involved Yin Che, it might really be a little different. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's curious expression, Shengguan Yingying's smile became even brighter. Hongzhuang, you're starting to gossip too. Haha. Bailey Hongzhuang laughed softly. Don't keep us in suspense. Hurry up and tell us. You know how cold Linga usually is. She wouldn't care about this kind of thing. But when she saw that the girl insisted on following Yin Che, she volunteered to help her find a place to stay. Don't you think that's very surprising? Linger volunteered. Chapter 6006. Don't doubt it. What you've heard is the truth. Shangguan Yingying picked up a mouthful of food and put it in her mouth. She was so happy that she didn't hesitate to eat. Di Beichen and Wen Xiren ate together. They already knew what was going on, so they watched Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Ying chatter with interest. Hongzhuang, do you think Linger likes Yin Che? Shangguan Yingying asked as she put food in Bailey Hongzhuang's bowl. Try it. It tastes good. I think we can bring some with us when we go to Granny Hua's place. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Granny Hua and the others loved delicious food. We haven't been back for so long. This time, we must bring more gifts. As their strength increased, they were even more grateful for the guidance Granny Hua and the others had given them. They had helped them for no reason, and they had no way to repay this kindness. The only thing they could do was make Granny Hua and the others happier. I have the same idea. Xiren and I have bought a lot of things these days. Shangguan Yingying smiled. It seemed that they were all thinking the same thing. Ling, and Yin Che's relationship is indeed a bit unclear. But it's best if we don't get involved in this kind of thing. If one day they really do get together, we'll be happy to see it. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled gently. She felt that things in this world were really interesting. Back in the Chaos Ring, before Yin Che had taken human form, Ling often bullied Yin Che and the others. Who would have thought that after Yin Che took human form, the relationship between the two would take a huge turn? It was very interesting just thinking about it. I'm actually more curious about what kind of place Ling will find for this girl. Shangguan Yingying's face was full of curiosity. If it were any other time, Linger would probably just throw this girl out. But it's not very likely that she will do so today. If she goes to another city, it might be possible. But if she stays in Emperor Cloud City, this girl's stepmother will find her sooner or later. That's right. That girl looks quite pitiful. Her tear-stained face makes one not have the heart to treat her cruelly. When Xiren also said, if we can find her a safe place to stay, that would be a good thing. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. This situation reminded her of herself in the beginning. When she was in the general's mansion, her life was also very miserable. Otherwise, the original Bailey Hongzhuang would not have died. Let's wait patiently. I believe that they will find a suitable solution. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. If they couldn't find a suitable place in Emperor Cloud City, they could go to other cities. Just how big was the upper realm? As long as he didn't go back, there were plenty of places he could go. Shangguan Yingying nodded slightly. I also think that this problem is very simple for them to solve. The four of them chatted as they ate. Perhaps it was because they had been too tense during their cultivation, but now that they could relax, everyone felt exceptionally happy. Of course, they also understood that this was just a short vacation. When Yin Ju came out of seclusion, they would go to the abandoned immortal forest to cultivate. After all, everything was pushing them forward now. They couldn't stop at all. And Master. Chapter 6007. Bailey Hongzhuang turned her head and found that Bai Li Yin Che and Ling had already arrived, and there was a strange figure beside them. The girl was very delicate and pretty, with soft facial features and a gentle temperament. At this moment, she was following behind Bai Li Yin Che, with a bit of panic and timidity on her face. Shangguan Yingying was still holding a piece of vegetable in her mouth. When she suddenly saw this scene, she couldn't help but open her mouth, and the vegetable fell back into the bowl. What's going on? Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen also looked at the two strangely. This scene was different from what they had imagined. Linger still had a cold face, and compared to her usual indifference, it was undoubtedly colder at this moment. Bai Lianche saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were also here, and he immediately breathed a sigh of relief, a smile on his face. Sister brother-in-law, you're also here. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a faint smile of concern. You're hungry too, right? Do you want some more food? Bai Lianche nodded slightly, then turned around and said, let's sit down and talk. After sitting down, Bai Lianche said, Sister, I presume you already know the situation? Bailey Hongzhuang responded. But what's the problem? Do you need our help? This matter really needs brother-in-law's help. Hearing this, Di Beichen's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise, but his expression was extremely calm. What do you need me to do? Just tell me. I was originally going to help Miss Wanqing find a place to stay, but I also understood that if she stayed in Emperor Cloud City, it would be difficult for her to truly live a peaceful life. So I prepared to leave some money for her to travel out of the city. I didn't expect her to be a cultivator of the dark attribute. With this attribute, even if she went to other cities, I'm afraid her life wouldn't be easy. With a helpless expression on his handsome white face, Bai Lianche looked at Di Beichen and said, Brother-in-law, I think you can give Miss Wanqing a better place to go. What do you think? When Gu Wanqing heard that Bai Lianche was going to hand her over to Di Beichen, she was a little nervous. She lowered her head and didn't even dare to look at Di Beichen and the others. She didn't expect Bai Lianche's brother-in-law to be young Master Di. He was the young master of the Di family. She simply couldn't believe that such a person with such a noble status was by her side right now. When Di Beichen heard that Gu Wanqing was of the dark attribute, he already understood Bai Lianche's idea. He looked at Gu Wanqing with a thoughtful look in his eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang also looked at Gu Wanqing. This name really matched this girl's image. However, the Dark Sacred Assembly was about to be established. If a dark attribute girl suddenly appeared at this time, they had to be cautious. Although Gu Yinqing didn't look like a thoughtful person, it was necessary to consider. They couldn't let any uncertain factors appear in this plan. Feeling Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's gazes, Gu Wanqing became even more flustered. Her fingers intertwined and her voice trembled as she said, No matter what you ask me to do, I will do my best to do it. I will never cause trouble for anyone. If I can be young Master Yin Che's maid, it will be my blessing. As soon as these words came out, everyone present looked at each other and felt a little amused. This girl was honest. She probably didn't want to do anything right now. She just wanted to stay by Lianche's side. Chapter 6008. Since Miss Gu has already made up your mind, it won't be a problem to accommodate you since my Di family has a large business. Di Beichen's expression was calm as he spoke slowly. Following Di Beichen's words, everyone could clearly feel that the surrounding atmosphere seemed to have become colder. Ling still had her arms crossed in front of her chest and didn't say a word, as if everything around her had nothing to do with her. However, the more this was the case, the more everyone felt that it was strange. Bai Lianche looked at Di Beichen for help. He didn't understand why his brother-in-law had agreed just like that. Helpless, he could only ask Bailey Hongzhuang for help. He didn't have any thoughts about Gu Wanqing, but if he didn't help her to the end after saving her, it wouldn't solve her problem at all. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a smile, giving Bailey Yanche a helpless look. Originally, she was worried that Gu Wanqing wanted to join the Dark Sacred Assembly for some purpose. Now, it seemed that the situation was clearly different from what she had imagined. This should be a very simple matter of a hero saving a beauty, and a woman falling in love at first sight. Now that the Dark Sacred Assembly was about to be established, if this girl was really a simple and honest person, it wouldn't be a bad choice for her to stay in the Dark Sacred Assembly in the future. After all, there were more men in the Sacred Assembly and fewer women. Most of the time, some miscellaneous and delicate matters were still handled by the women. However, before entering the dark sacred assembly, they needed to properly investigate. She believed that Beichen also had the same idea, but she would have to trouble Yin-che. When Xiren and Shangguan Yinging watched the show in front of them and secretly admired Beichen, Beichen was simply trying to stir up trouble. Bai Li Yin-che felt even more helpless after seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang didn't intend to help him. Just as he was about to clear things up with Gu Wanqing, he met a pair of eyes filled with tears. Sir Yin-che, I will do my best to serve you well and won't cause any trouble. If you don't like me, I don't mind if you arrange for me to do odd jobs. Gu Wanqing felt uneasy. She really did not have any way out now. As long as she did not marry someone she did not love, she did not care what kind of hard work she had to do. Besides, she liked Bai Li Yin-che. Even if she could only see him from afar, that would be good enough. If she could do something for him, that would be the happiest thing in the world. Seeing Gu Wanqing like this, Bai Li Yin-che couldn't bring himself to reject her. He could only say, I'm used to being alone. I don't need anyone to serve me. After you go to the D family, I will see what other jobs are suitable for you. If you find a better place to go in the future, just let me know. Gu Wanqing lowered her head and said, Thank you, young master. Bai Li Yin-che breathed a sigh of relief. When he was eating, he looked at Di Beichen with resentment. His brother-in-law deliberately tricked him. However, even in the face of Bai Li Yin-che and Ling Er's resentful gazes, Di Beichen still minded his own business and ate slowly. He was not affected in the slightest. After lunch, everyone strolled around Diyin City for a while, mainly to buy some food and daily necessities. Only then did they return to the D family. The arrangement for Gu Wanqing was very simple. The entire D family was extremely large and would usually recruit servants. The service elder easily arranged a job for Gu Wanqing and arranged for her to be in a place not far from Bai Li Yin-che's residence. Chapter 6009. Ling Er, you don't seem to be in a good mood today. After arranging Gu Wanqing's tasks, everyone headed back to their residence. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask when she saw that Ling Er hadn't said a word. Actually, she was very surprised by Ling Er's behavior today. In the past, she only thought that Yin-che had feelings for Ling Er, but Ling Er had never expressed her feelings. She also didn't see the slightest bit of concern in her expression. However, after this incident, everyone felt that something was wrong with Ling Er. Although she was Ling Er's master, she had always treated Ling Er as a good sister. If it weren't for Ling Er, she would have died long ago. Ling Er originally had a cold expression on her face, but after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, her expression froze for a moment. Then she said, It's nothing. I've always been like this. When Xiren secretly gave Bai Li Yin-che a look that said, You're on your own. Although Ling Er had lived longer than them, it was obvious that demon beasts weren't as good at disguising themselves as humans. Even if she didn't deliberately show it, it was obvious from her current state that she was in a very bad mood. Once a girl like Ling Er got angry, it wouldn't be easy to appease her. Bai Li Yin-che shook his head and sighed. Had he been tricked by his brother-in-law? After hearing Ling Er's words, Bailey Hongzhuang understood that she didn't intend to say her thoughts, so she didn't ask any further. When it came to matters of the heart, no one could say for sure except for the person involved. After Ling Er left, Xiren bumped Bai Li Yin-che's shoulder and smiled. Brother, there's hope. I don't understand what you're saying. Bai Li Yin-che raised his eyebrows and pretended not to understand. Xiren chuckled. I understand. These two fellows had always been enemies. Now that there was suddenly such a subtle change, it was normal for them to be unable to adapt for a while. I'll head back first, Bai Li Yin-che said. At this moment, his feelings were very complicated. Gu Wanqing was not far from where he lived. This problem was more troublesome. He had been by his sister's side for so long, and was surrounded by familiar people. After he transformed into his human form, he also had his own residence. Although Gu Wan didn't live with him, this feeling was a little strange. Beichen, what did you do to Yin-che today? Shangguan Yingying was a little puzzled. Although she was very happy to watch the show, Today's action didn't seem to be in line with Beichen's character. Actually, from another perspective, I'm helping him. Beichen raised his eyebrows. Hearing this, Shangguan Yingying and the others looked at each other. All right, they admitted that Beichen was telling the truth. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly woke up and saw that Beichen had already brought her breakfast. You're awake. Beichen's smile was warm. Even the sunlight couldn't be compared to his smile. I guessed that you'd be hungry when you woke up, so I prepared breakfast for you. It's all your favorite food. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the incomparably handsome man in front of her. But she felt as if she had married a fox. If it wasn't for him, how could she have slept until now? Humph. Bailey Hongzhuang pouted and snorted coldly. She raised her head arrogantly and didn't want to pay attention to Beichen at all. Beichen's smile became even more affectionate. He walked slowly to Bailey Hongzhuang. Wife, I'll think that you're acting coquettishly like this. Chapter 6010. Bailey Hongzhuang stared wide-eyed at the handsome face in front of her. Beichen originally saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was too cute and wanted to stop with a light kiss. But after kissing her, he found that a light kiss was not enough and could not help but deepen the kiss. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly closed her eyes. Beichen's kiss was as domineering as ever, but it did not lose its gentleness. It carried his unique scent, making people intoxicated. But when that pair of hot hands took the opportunity to stick to her skin, Bailey Hongzhuang opened her eyes. Her hands were pressed against Beichen's chest, and she angrily glared at him. Could it be that this man was not tired? Last night had exhausted her to death. Even now, she had not recovered and he actually... I'm hungry. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's begging appearance, Beichen chuckled. I'll help you bring it over? No need, I'll get up right away. Bailey Hongzhuang greedily hugged Beichen. Her exquisite and beautiful face was filled with a sweet and happy smile. This kind of life was really beautiful. Beichen nodded slightly. Okay. After tidying up her clothes and putting on her makeup, Bailey Hongzhuang sat at the table. Looking at the exquisite dishes on the table, they were all her favorites. I just heard that Yunju has come out of closed-door cultivation. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. Really? Then we can go to the abandoned immortal forest together today? Should be. Beichen smiled. He knew that his wife had always wanted to see Granny Hua. After all, among all of them, Granny Hua liked her the most. That's great. Bailey Hongzhuang took a bite of the bun. Her delicate and beautiful face was filled with happiness. Abandoned immortal forest. In front of them was a lush forest. The air was mixed with the smell of green grass. The sunlight was dazzling, bringing with it a sense of warmth. Appearing here again, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest unconsciously revealed a happy smile. After parting for almost a year, they wondered how Zhongli Mu and the rest were doing. Walking forward, not long after, everyone saw the familiar house. They could faintly hear the sound of conversation coming from the courtyard. Everyone looked at each other and lightened their footsteps. They wanted to give Granny Hua and the rest a surprise. However, before they reached the door, Granny Hua's voice was heard. You little brats, you're finally back. You. Granny Hua. Granny Hua. Granny Hua's ears. They were so careful and they almost did not make any sound, but they still could not escape Granny Hua's ears. The 7 of them walked into the courtyard together and saw Granny Hua and Senior Yu drying medicinal herbs. At this moment, the 2 of them had already put down the medicinal herbs in their hands and were looking at them with smiles. Granny Hua Senior. The 7 of them bowed. Their youthful faces were filled with joyful smiles. After leaving for so long, seeing that everything was the same as before, everyone felt especially at ease. You guys left for a long time. Moore often talks about you guys. Granny Hua looked at everyone with a smile. Her eyes were filled with love. Granny Hua Senior, after not seeing you for so long, we all miss you. Chapter 6011. Senior you. We've been looking forward to coming back as soon as possible to show our filial piety to you. Xiron's face was full of smiles. Look, we've brought many gifts to make amends this time. As he spoke, Xiron took out the things they had bought in the Emperor Cloud City 2 days ago. At first, Yu Hong still had an arrogant look on his face, but when he saw Xiron take out one gift after another, he could no longer maintain his cold image. He immediately beamed with joy. At least you have a conscience. Granny Hua couldn't help but smile when she saw this. These little fellows had clearly figured out their preferences, so they had prepared so many gifts. However, this also proved that these little fellows were indeed thinking about them and weren't lying. You've all improved quite a bit during this time. After carefully sensing the cultivation of Di Baichen and the others, Yu Hong's expression changed a little. When he first saw these little fellows, he didn't think much of their strength. With such a cultivation at this age, they would be a burden even in the abandoned immortal forest, let alone in the immortal domain. However, after not seeing them for a while, Di Baichen and the others had actually advanced to the heavenly moon realm. This was a leap of 3 realms. Even Mu'er's speed of improvement wasn't so astonishing. Granny Hua also sensed it when she heard this, and a hint of surprise flashed through her eyes. This kind of improvement must be due to a great opportunity. Otherwise, it would be impossible to achieve just by relying on one's own cultivation. At the same time, it was impossible for a cultivator to improve so much through ordinary opportunities. We went out to train this time. Fortunately, we had a great harvest. Di Baichen cupped his hands and replied. Granny Hua's expression became more serious. The upper realm actually has such an amazing place to train. You've only been gone for less than a year, and your cultivations have improved so much? The place we went to this time shouldn't belong to the upper realm, Di Baichen replied. Yu Hong frowned. Not from the upper realm? Then where is it? This time around, we went to a battlefield. The people inside were all supreme experts. According to our judgment, they should be experts from the immortal realms in the past. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly introduced the situation of the ancient battlefield. In fact, she was very curious about the existence of the ancient battlefield. It was impossible for cultivators from the upper realm to know the origin of such a mysterious place. Even Shu Yu would not know about it. Therefore, the only people who could possibly know the origin of the ancient battlefield were Granny Hua and the others. Battlefield? Hearing this, Granny Hua and Yu Hong couldn't help but look at each other. Their originally calm faces suddenly became complicated. It's just a battlefield. Your cultivation shouldn't have improved so much, Granny Hua said slowly. Then what's inside the battlefield? Did you see 2 statues? Yu Hong suddenly asked. That's right. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded, not intending to hide anything. We saw 2 statues there, one of light and one of darkness. The rumor is actually true, Granny Hua muttered and looked into the distance. Her expression was somewhat weathered, as if she was recalling something from a long time ago. Looking at the 2 of them, everyone understood that Granny Hua and Senior Yu indeed knew about the ancient battlefield. Chapter 6012. Yu Hong nodded slightly. This is an ancient battlefield. It is indeed from the immortal domain. Then why did it appear in the upper realm? Bai Lianche looked puzzled. The immortal domain and the upper realm were 2 different planes. Even the most ordinary cultivator in the immortal domain would be a dangerous existence in the upper realm. Now that the entrance to the immortal domain's ancient battlefield had appeared in the upper realm, it was fortunate that there was not much danger inside. If there were surviving cultivators inside, wouldn't it bring a huge disaster to the upper realm? This matter has a long history. Yu Hong sank into his memories. The ancient battlefield itself is actually a battlefield. Even in the immortal domain, there are many forces. Where there are people, there will be conflicts. Grudges and conflicts are unavoidable. Because of the frequent battles, which had a great impact, there was a small world like this that was specially used for battles. We don't know how long this ancient battlefield has existed. Anyway, it has existed for a long time. According to the ancient records, there were miracles in the ancient battlefield. They were referring to the light and darkness god statues. This news has been guiding many cultivators to go there for the sake of seeing the two god statues. It is said that the two god statues possess great power. Any cultivator who is baptized by the god statues will have a great opportunity. Their cultivation speed will be much faster than ordinary cultivators. However, as time passed, many cultivators voluntarily entered the ancient battlefield when the major forces were fighting. However, after so many years, the god statues have never appeared. As time passed, everyone felt that the news was fake. Therefore, no one went to the ancient battlefield. The ancient battlefield was gradually abandoned by the immortal domain. Granny Hua also said, although I don't know why the entrance to the ancient battlefield appeared in the upper realm, since you are able to see the two god statues, it proves that your luck is really good. If those fellows in the immortal domain know that the god statues really exist, they will probably be furious. Yu Hong chuckled. If this news spreads, I'm afraid that many people will fight to enter the ancient battlefield. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others understood after hearing all this. Although they had never been to the immortal domain, they could feel that the immortal domain was an extremely huge and terrifying place from the two seniors' introduction. Even if it was a battle, there was a special place for it. This matter seemed a little shocking, but if one thought about it carefully, it was indeed a very good method. In this way, the war would not affect the buildings of the immortal realm. Come tell us, what's so special about those two idols? Granny Hua revealed a rare look of curiosity. Even they had not personally been to the ancient battlefield. As for the two divine statues, it was written in the ancient books that they were miraculous and had endless uses. There were even rumors that as long as the cultivators who had been there were able to comprehend the contents inside, they would be destined to stand above everyone else. It was precisely because of this that there were always people who wanted to go to the ancient battlefield to search for opportunities. In fact, for such a long time, even they felt that the records in the ancient books were lies. But they didn't expect that everything was true. It was just that they didn't know it. Chapter 60:13. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others said that they could improve their cultivation talent in the Divine Palace, Granny Hua and Yu Hong were completely shocked. Improving one's talent was the most difficult thing to do, no matter where it was. Even in the immortal realm, it was difficult to improve one's talent. However, the Divine Palace actually had a way to improve one's talent. That was too amazing. When Hua Shukong arrived, he saw Granny Hua and the others sitting in a circle in the courtyard. He immediately smiled and said, "You guys are back. No wonder it's so lively." Senior Hua, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others bowed. The seniors treated them very well, so they respected them from the bottom of their hearts. "Why do you two look like that?" Hua Shukong nodded at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, then looked at Yu Hong and Granny Hua in confusion. Their expressions were too strange. "Old man, sit down first." Yu Hong patted the chair next to him and said, "You guys brought us some shocking news today." Oh, Hua Shukong was instantly interested. "What news? Tell me about it. Do you remember the two god statues on the ancient battlefield?" Granny Hua raised her eyebrows and smiled. Hua Shukong, who was originally casual, changed his expression after hearing this. He said in surprise, "How do they know about the god statues on the ancient battlefield? The ancient battlefield has been abandoned for many years. I don't know why the entrance was in the upper realm. When they entered the ancient battlefield this time, they happened to see the two god statues." Hua Shukong's expression changed slightly. "So you're going to enter the Divine Palace?" Everyone nodded. Hua Shukong was stunned for a moment before he smiled and said, "It seems that you guys are really lucky. Senior, have you heard of a person called Qing Devil?" Di Beichen thought for a while and asked. Although they were almost certain that Qing Devil was still in the ancient battlefield, he had a physical body now. He might come out of the ancient battlefield at any time. If Qing Devil was a powerful figure in the past, someone should have heard of her. However, these seniors have been living in the abandoned immortal forest all their lives, so they might not know much about the people in the immortal region. Qing Devil? Granny Hua frowned. I've never heard of it. Did you meet this person in the ancient battlefield? Yu Hong asked. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. He's someone who's very good at illusions. We met him in the ancient battlefield, and he even took over someone's body. However, he didn't seem to have returned to the upper realm this time. That's for sure. His soul still belongs to the celestial realm. It's impossible for him to appear in the upper realm. Only if this exit is in the immortal domain would he be able to come out. Yu Hong said slowly. However, the ancient battlefield has been abandoned for so long, yet his soul is still intact. This guy is quite capable. Qing Devil is good at illusions. Hua Shukong pondered. This name sounds familiar. As soon as he said this, everyone's eyes focused on Hua Shukong. Even though Qing Devil stayed in the ancient battlefield, everyone still felt uneasy. After all, he was still alive. After a while, Hua Shukong showed a look of realization. I remember now. This guy used to be from the immortal region. Chapter 60:14. Qing Devil. Just like his name, he's very demonic. I don't know much about him. I've only heard of his reputation. This person was very good at illusions. His illusions could be said to be at the peak of perfection. Even cultivators who were stronger than him would often be immersed in his illusions and be unable to extricate themselves. That's why no one wants to have too much to do with him. He's very ruthless. Although he didn't stay in the immortal realm for long, he made a name for himself. Later, I didn't hear any news about him. I thought he went somewhere else, but I didn't expect him to be in the ancient battlefield. Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others finally understood. It seemed that Qing Devil's strength was not to be underestimated. Although they hadn't been to the immortal realm, Granny Hua and the others were extremely terrifying in their eyes. Even so, they had been living in the abandoned immortal forest. It showed how terrifying the cultivators in the immortal realm were. Since Qing Devil was able to make a name for himself in the immortal realm, his strength must be extraordinary. I hope this guy stays in the ancient battlefield. It'll be really troublesome if he comes out. Xiren couldn't help but sigh. If this guy hadn't just possessed Jun Lingxuan's body, they wouldn't have been able to defeat him. Most importantly, no matter if it was his cultivation method or not, this guy was probably much better than them. If they saw this guy again, his strength must be very terrifying. Everyone nodded. If possible, they really didn't want to see Qing Devil again. Don't worry about that now. He's been trapped in the ancient battlefield for so many years. As long as the ancient battlefield is abandoned, he probably won't have a chance to come out, Di Beichen said slowly. Everyone was relieved. Even if Qing Devil really appeared, he could only appear in the immortal realm. With their current situation, it was impossible for them to meet him. Instantly, the atmosphere became much more relaxed. Is Zhongli Mu cultivating outside? Bailey Hongzhuang looked outside. She hadn't seen Zhongli Mu until now. They missed him a little because he hadn't come back for such a long time. He went out to cultivate early in the morning as usual. You guys haven't been here for a while, so he's been talking about you guys. I'm sure he'll be very happy to see you when he comes back later. Just as they were talking, Senior Zhongli walked over slowly with Zhongli Mu. Upon seeing Di Beichen and the others, Zhongli Mu's face immediately lit up with joy. Brother Di, you're back. Zhongli Mu, long time no see. Everyone smiled. Zhongli Mu walked over quickly. I thought that you would only be gone for a few days, but I didn't expect you to not return after such a long time. I thought that I would never see you again. We went out to train earlier, and came looking for you as soon as we came back. Everyone was overjoyed. Although they had not known Zhongli Mu for long, they had always treated him as their younger brother. It was really hard not to like this young man, who was astonishingly strong, but also very simple. It's great that you're back. Zhong Limu's smile was simple and honest. In the past, when you guys didn't come, I didn't feel bored. But after you guys left, I felt that being alone was too boring. This time, you won't be leaving for the time being, right? Chapter 60:15. After hearing Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest's answer, Zhong Limu was relieved. He had been hoping that everyone would come back soon. Otherwise, it would be too boring for him to be alone. Zhongli Shaoran looked at Zhong Limu's happy face, and his gaze softened. Zhong Limu had been with this group of old people since he was young, so he was bored. As a grandfather, he could clearly feel that Mu'er had become happier after getting to know Di Baichen and the rest. Now he was sure that these little fellows were good people, and had no other motives. If they could go to the immortal domain with Mu'er, that would be great too. Oh right, senior, do you recognize this? Bailey Hongzhuang took out a book, and handed it to Granny Hua. The content written on it was what they had copied in the Light Palace. However, they did not recognize the meaning of these words. After returning to the Di family, they had asked their grandfather, but he did not recognize these words either. He had flipped through some ancient books, but there was no introduction to these words. Therefore, if they wanted to know the content of these words, this was the only way. If Granny Hua and the rest did not know, they could only think of a way after going to the immortal domain. Granny Hua took the book. When she saw the words written on it, a look of surprise appeared in her eyes. These are ancient words. Once she said this, Yu Hong and the rest became more serious. The ancient words had been around for many years. It was impossible to see them in ordinary places. Old man Hua, take a look. Granny Hua handed the book to Hua Shukong. Hua Shukong flipped through 2 pages and nodded. That's right, these are ancient words. Where did you get this? Yu Hong asked. Bailey Hongzhuang answered honestly. This is what we saw on the wall of the Light Palace. I felt that the content was very profound, and might be useful in the future, so I copied it down. It's a pity that we don't recognize these words. Therefore, I would like to ask you seniors if you recognize them? We don't recognize these ancient words either. Granny Hua shook her head. We only know that these are ancient words of the immortal domain. However, it was too long ago. Just like the ancient battlefield, we can't trace its origin. That's right. Hua Shukong was helpless. The things recorded in the Light Palace should be very precious. It's a pity that too long ago, even in the immortal domain, no one would recognize them. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen looked at each other. It seemed that Qing Devil did not lie to them on this point. It was as if a huge treasure had appeared in front of you, but you did not have the key. It was really frustrating. Not to mention Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Even Yu Hong and the others couldn't help but sigh as they looked at the book. But, it. Xian. Chapter 60:16. At this moment, Zhongli Shaoran suddenly took the book. After carefully reading the contents, a trace of contemplation appeared on his face. Seeing this, Yu Hong raised his eyebrows. Old man Zhongli, could it be that you recognize these words? As soon as these words were spoken, the gazes of everyone descended onto Zhongli Shaoran. If he knew the contents of these words, then they might really have opened a treasure trove. Facing everyone's expectant gazes, Zhongli Shaoran slowly shook his head. I don't. Then why are you pretending to be so deep? Yu Hong rolled his eyes. To think that he was so expectant. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were also very helpless. What they hoped for the most now was to meet someone who could recognize these words. But I have a friend who might recognize these words. Zhongli Shaoran's voice rang out again. Everyone was slightly stunned. Then, their eyes flashed with a strong sense of hope. Really? Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but be surprised. He has always been good at these things. Zhongli Xiaoran's voice had a hint of certainty. However, he is in the immortal region. Hua Shukong sighed. He was not surprised. As long as someone recognizes him, even if he is in the immortal region, there will be a chance in the future. Towards the end, perhaps Hua Shukong's words were directed at Di Beichen and the others. Granny Hua nodded slightly with a kind smile on her face. Although the people living in the abandoned immortal forest have always been looked down upon by the people in the immortal region, you juniors are still young. In the future, you will definitely have a chance to go to the immortal region. How can us old fellows allow the younger generation to stay in the forsaken immortal forest like us? Then, will I also have to go to the immortal region in the future? Zhongli Mu suddenly asked. Zhongli Xiaoran smiled at Zhongli Mu. He reached out and patted the latter's head. Didn't you always think that it is boring to stay in the abandoned immortal forest with us old guys? Once you have learned enough, you can go to the immortal region. At that time, we will not stop you. Hearing this, Zhongli Mu's expression became complicated. Grandpa, I am not unwilling to stay here. Zhongli Xiaoran had a warm smile on his face, completely different from his usual stern self. Only when he was facing Zhongli Mu would he reveal such a loving expression. Even if you want to stay here, we won't agree. You're still so young. Why don't you go out and explore the world? We old guys have already seen everything. That's why we stayed in the abandoned immortal forest. Granny Hua laughed lightly and said, Your grandfather already had this plan. That's why he's been so harsh on you all these years. You have to understand his good intentions. Otherwise, this old fellow only has you as his grandson. If you're not strong enough, he won't feel at ease letting you go out. Yu Hong and the others nodded in agreement. Zhongli was the least talkative among them, but they were well aware of his feelings for Mu'er. Old man Zhongli, you don't have to worry at all. Mu'er is so outstanding, and he has inherited our legacy. It would be strange if he was bullied by those young fellows outside. When Hua Shukong spoke, his face was full of confidence and pride. After Bailey Hongzhuang noticed this, she was a little surprised. Chapter 60-17. Initially, she thought that the cultivators of the immortal domain must be extremely terrifying, unimaginable existences, if they could only stay in the forsaken immortal forest despite being so powerful. However, after hearing what Senior Hua said, she suddenly felt that things were different from what she thought. Perhaps Senior Zhongli and the rest were experts who were tired of life in the immortal domain, which was why they stayed in the forsaken immortal forest. This situation was not impossible. That was what Senior Hua meant. As for whether that was the case, they would have to wait until they went to the immortal domain to find out. Don't worry, when you are strong enough to go to the immortal domain, I will write a letter for you to bring. As long as my old friend sees my letter, he will definitely help you. Zhongli Xiaoran's expression was calm, and his words were filled with confidence. It was obvious that his old friend had a very good relationship with him. Thank you, Senior. Di Beichen cupped his fists in thanks. This was extremely good news for them. After talking about the recent situation, the atmosphere was completely relaxed. Quick, look at the gifts these little fellas brought us. Granny Hua smiled as she waved her hand. While you were away, our food standards have dropped quite a bit. That's the truth. Yu Hong's face was serious. This feeling is the same as Mu'er. When you weren't around, we ate like this. However, ever since you came, eating the same food as before, the feeling is really... Yu Hong shook his head helplessly, clearly disgusted. Zhongli Mu looked at Yu Hong, who did not give him any face, and could not help but ask, Senior Yu, is my food really that bad? No one asked him to eat it. Zhongli Xiaoran said. Yu Hong smiled embarrassedly. Mu'er, I'm not saying that your food is bad. I just feel that Hong Zhuang's culinary skills are better. That's true. Zhongli Mu nodded honestly. Actually, I also feel that Hong Zhuang's food is the best. If there's a chance, I would like to learn from Hong Zhuang. No need. Zhongli Xiaoran sat down proudly. Don't tell me you specialize in cooking for everyone? That's all you've done. He doesn't care if he eats it or not. It's best if he starves to death. Zhongli Xiaoran had always been very protective of Zhongli Mu, and in such a situation, he displayed it vividly. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other, and a smile appeared on their lips. Senior Yu was actually very kind-hearted. It was just that his mouth was guarded, and it was very easy for him to offend people. Normally it would be fine. However, when facing Senior Zhongli, the latter would not be courteous in the slightest. However, it was clear that everyone had always gotten along with each other like this. From Yu Hong's face that did not have the slightest bit of anger, one could tell that he was already used to Zhongli Xiaoran's insults. After dinner, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others returned to their normal lives and followed Zhongli Mu to cultivate. When everyone stood in front of the waterfall again, they all had joyful smiles on their faces. In the past, I only felt that this river was too scary. However, after not coming back for so long, I really do miss it. When Xiren could not help but say as he jumped into the river, causing a splash. Seeing Xiren's action, Mo Yunjue and the other two looked at each other and jumped into the river together. Chapter 60:18. With the current weather, jumping into the river would be the coolest. Bailey Hongzhuang, Shangguaning Ying and Linger looked at each other, a playful smile appearing on their faces. In the next moment, the three of them also jumped into the river without hesitation. They were using this method to announce that they were back. Zhongli Mu looked at everyone, and the smile on his face became even brighter. The feeling of cultivating with everyone like this was really good. I'm coming too. Zhongli Mu laughed, and immediately rushed into the river. Xiao He, Xiao Bai and Xiao Xuanzi were not to be outdone. How could they not participate in this kind of situation? After a round of laughter, everyone returned to normal. Now that your strength has increased greatly, I'm sure that the speed of learning this move will be much faster. I hope that you will be able to learn it soon. Zhongli Mu's face was filled with a simple smile. Don't think that this move is simple, but it's very useful when used. Hearing this, Di Beichen nodded slightly. He had the most profound understanding of this point. When he had displayed that move, in fact, it had not been completely successful, but it had already had such power. If he cultivated it for a while, the effect would be even better. Everyone had seen Di Beichen use this move before, so they were very familiar with its effects. They also understood that the senior guiding them to learn this move was really for their own good. Zhongli Mu, don't worry, we will definitely work hard. Oh right, how's your practice of that move? Di Beichen asked with a faint smile. In the past year, everyone's strength had improved greatly. Zhongli Mu had always been an extremely abnormal existence in terms of cultivation. Through this period of cultivation, he might have already mastered this move. I've already mastered it. Zhongli Mu touched his head. A simple and clear smile was reflected on his young and tender face, imprinted in everyone's heart. Facing such a cute young man, everyone only felt happy. It's really your style. Xiren was not surprised. If we didn't have the opportunity this time, I'm afraid that we would be left far behind by you again. Zhongli Mu, since you've already mastered it, why don't you show us? It was rare for Mo Yunjue to speak. When he first saw Zhongli Mu practicing this move, he was very surprised. Although he hadn't mastered it at that time, being able to walk to the center was already a terrifying ability. Now that he had succeeded, the scene would definitely be spectacular. Everyone nodded and looked at Zhongli Mu expectantly. They were also very curious about the effect. Then I'll show you. Zhongli Mu agreed without hesitation. His figure flashed as he charged towards the magnificent waterfall under everyone's gaze. He saw a figure rushing up from the bottom of the waterfall as fast as lightning. The turbulent water rushed down, and the rumbling sound was endless. Everyone saw that a path seemed to have been opened in the middle of the waterfall, and a young and vigorous figure rushed up the waterfall at lightning speed. Unlike the first time when he was washed down by the river halfway, this time, he directly climbed to the top. Looking at the sturdy and proud figure, everyone's eyes were filled with admiration. Chapter 60:19. This move looks really shocking after mastering it. Shengguaninging stared blankly at the figure on top of the waterfall. Even though the figure was extremely small compared to the majestic waterfall, at this moment, no one could ignore his existence. Zhong Limu's speed is truly abnormal. But thinking about how he usually looks when he cultivates, even I have to admit that this fellow is really handsome. Xiren's lips curled into a brilliant smile. When he saw someone of the same age who was stronger than him, he couldn't help but feel complicated. But when he saw this young man who was so terrifyingly strong, he didn't have any other emotions. He just felt happy for him from the bottom of his heart. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' faces were filled with joy. Perhaps Zhong Limu had this kind of magic that made everyone happy for him. In the next moment, Zhong Limu suddenly jumped down from the top of the waterfall, allowing the water to wash over him. Not long after, he returned to their side. Zhong Limu, this move of yours is really powerful. It looks amazing. Shengguaninging gave him a thumbs up. This fellow really made many people prostrate themselves in admiration. If Zhong Limu went to the upper realm, those arrogant fellows wouldn't have the face to continue being so arrogant. Zhong Limu smiled foolishly, but his eyes dimmed. I've been practicing this move for a while. Grandfather said that my speed is already too slow. Too slow. Hearing these two words, everyone blushed with shame. How hard was this move to practice? They thought about how they had spent so much time practicing this move, and still hadn't succeeded. Zhong Limu didn't know how much damage his words had done to everyone. He continued, once you've mastered this move, you can practice this move too. Senior Hu said that besides being strong, a cultivator must also be good at escaping. This way if you can't win, you can still run. So speed is a must. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Escaping was indeed a very important move for a cultivator. As the saying goes, it's never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. If you can't win, run away. If you can't win, then fight again. Senior Hu is really interesting. Di Beichen smiled faintly. Now that you've mastered this move, do you want to go somewhere else to practice? Zhong Limu shook his head. No, I'll stay here and cultivate. Then what are you training here for? Mo Yunjua's eyes flashed with a trace of doubt. What I'm practicing now is the usage of elemental power. Zhong Limu said frankly. When I was practicing previously, I was only using the most superficial of powers. However, there are actually many ways to use elemental powers. After mastering the usage of elemental energy, one's strength will become even stronger. Then how are you cultivating now? Bailey Hongzhuang was very curious. In fact, the upper realm was not good at using elemental powers. She vaguely felt that this might be the difference between the two planes. After going to the Darkness Temple and the Radiant Temple, her understanding of elemental powers had deepened. However, it was very clear that what Zhong Limu was practicing now was more specific. Sensing everyone's curious gazes, Zhong Limu said, "Do you want me to show you?" "Sure." Chapter 60:20. Walk up it steadily? Bai Lian Che found it hard to believe. With the speed of the water and its weight, it would be difficult to rush up in an instant. Walking up steadily was even more difficult. When everyone heard this, they found it hard to believe. This kind of thing, most people wouldn't have thought of it. Zhong Limu nodded affirmatively. That's right. Actually, this is quite difficult. It takes a lot of time to practice. In the beginning, I also felt that it was too difficult to achieve this. However, after cultivating for a while, I realized that it was actually possible. Noticing the confident smile on Zhongli Mu's face, everyone looked at each other. They understood that since their senior had asked Zhongli Mu to do this, it meant that it was possible. However, it was obvious how difficult the process was. I haven't mastered it yet. Let me demonstrate it to you. Zhongli Mu smiled faintly. I think that the senior's arrangement for all of you is the same as mine. This is the process that we have to go through. Hearing this, everyone lamented in their hearts. It seemed that this was a process that they had to go through. It was just that Zhongli Mu was walking ahead of them. In the next moment, Zhongli Mu leaped into the familiar river. He was as agile as a fish. In the blink of an eye, he was already at the bottom of the river. Just when everyone was curious, a fiery red light suddenly appeared at the bottom of the waterfall. The aura of the fire attribute instantly swept out. Fire and water were incompatible. Under the waterfall, the fire seemed to be extinguished at any time. However, Zhongli Mu used the fire attribute to create a square around his body. He controlled the four walls to slowly move upwards. His walking speed was very slow. Under the terrifying impact of the water, it seemed like he would be washed down at any time. However, he was as sturdy as a rock. He steadily moved upwards. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the fiery red light in the middle of the waterfall. If they didn't understand the purpose of this at first, they completely understood after seeing Zhongli Mu's demonstration. Zhongli Mu is using his fire attribute energy to create a few walls to surround himself. Not only that, his body isn't splashed by any water. Di Beichen's eyes were full of wisdom. He carefully observed every change in Zhongli Mu, and everything was clear to him. Fire and water are incompatible, but he was able to use the power of fire to resist the impact of the waterfall. He is indeed impressive. Mo Yunjue said in admiration. This process seemed very simple to them, but in reality, it was extremely difficult to control. In a place where the water element was everywhere, it was not easy to stabilize the fire element. Moreover, once the flames were extinguished by the water, everything would be considered a failure. Zhongli Mu's control over elemental energy is much better than ours, Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly, her clear eyes filled with anticipation. She would never feel disappointed about what she lacked. On the contrary, if there was something she wasn't good at, they just needed to learn. In the past, they had always relied on themselves to explore, and their progress was relatively slow. Now that they had a master to guide them, it was already a great help. Chapter 60-21. Zhongli Mu's performance was just as he had said. Before he could even reach the middle of the waterfall, he had already failed and was knocked down. Returning to the group, Zhongli Mu combed his wet hair and said, "This is all I can do now. The higher I go, the more difficult it is. I think I need to cultivate for a while before I can succeed. Good luck, we all believe in your ability." Everyone smiled. Zhongli Mu was a genius, so no one doubted that he could not do it. It was only a matter of time. Continue cultivating, I won't disturb you. Grandpa said that we need to hurry up and cultivate. Cultivators from the immortal region seem to have come here recently, so you all need to be careful. Zhongli Mu's expression turned serious. But I've been cultivating here for a while, and I haven't seen anyone come. So you don't need to be too worried. Grandpa and the others heard about this from somewhere else. If you really meet them, remember to act according to the situation. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was shocked. When she first met Zhongli Mu, he thought they were from the immortal region, and was very wary of them. Cultivators from the immortal region were very unfriendly to people from the abandoned immortal forest. If they met them, they would be in trouble. We understand, don't worry. Then I'll go. Zhongli Mu smiled, We're close anyway. If anything happens, I'll rush over as soon as possible. After Zhong Limu left, the group did not waste any more time and began to cultivate their sword techniques. Di Baichen had already successfully performed this technique. However, it took a long time to accumulate power, and it was very powerful. Sword techniques required tens of thousands of practice before they could integrate it into their instincts. The speed at which they could perform it would also increase. Not only did they need to perform the technique, they also needed to perform it effortlessly. This way their battle strength would increase greatly. The group stood in a row, as if they had returned to the time when they first started cultivating. However, after this attempt, everyone clearly noticed the changes in their bodies. As their strength increased, many parts of their bodies changed subtly. They were still practicing, but they no longer felt as difficult as before. On the contrary, everything became much easier. Perceiving this change, everyone's hearts were filled with joy. At the same time, Di Baichen, who had already successfully displayed it, was able to display it again more easily than before. Work hard, we can't be left behind by Zhong Limu too much. Bailey Hongzhuang's smile was as bright as the sun. Every time she experienced a life and death situation, she would deeply love the feeling of training with everyone. Life in the abandoned immortal forest was very peaceful. Every day at dawn, everyone would prepare breakfast and head towards the waterfall to cultivate. Granny Flower was also thinking of ways to help everyone improve. Every day, Granny Flower would concoct medicine. However, Bailey Hongzhuang learned that this potion was different from the potions they had used before. The effect was better and more in line with their current physical condition. Chapter 60-22. Regarding this, Bailey Hongzhuang was also pleasantly surprised. Granny Hua's medical skills were outstanding. It could be seen from the medicine that she had concocted. Actually, during this period of time, she had also taken the time to read the medical books that Granny Hua had given her. The medicinal herbs in the immortal domain were more abundant than those in the upper realm. The plane that she had lived in her previous life was also in the upper realm, so her medical skills were already very brilliant there. However, in the immortal domain, there were still many shortcomings. Fortunately, she was already very good at this, so even if she had never come into contact with these medicinal herbs, her memory was still very good. After memorizing all the names of these medicinal herbs, with Granny Hua's guidance, her progress was also not bad. Granny Hua clearly did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to have such amazing talent in this area. With just a few words of guidance, she could quickly deduce many things from one example. Many times, she did not say anything and just let Bailey Hongzhuang think for herself, and the latter could more or less deduce things. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang like this, she became more and more satisfied. Every master would be happy to have such an intelligent disciple. Although Moore also dabbled in this area of medical skills, he was not as attentive as you in this area. I originally thought that no one could properly inherit my mantle, but I didn't expect that the heavens would actually send me such a good disciple. Granny Hua looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a smile. Her originally loving face was now even more amiable, and her gaze had an additional trace of seriousness. Hongzhuang, I formally ask you, are you willing to be my disciple? Once you become my disciple, you must abide by the rules that I set. After going to the immortal domain, you must also remember that you are my disciple. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the flower in surprise. Previously, Granny Hua had only casually guided her, and her progress was already very fast. Now that Granny Hua was willing to accept her as a disciple, the feeling was completely different. Master, please accept a bow from your disciple. Bailey Hongzhuang knelt on the ground and bowed deeply. Seeing this, the flower's smile became even more brilliant. Good disciple, quickly get up. Yes, master. Bailey Hongzhuang had a gentle smile on her face as she quickly walked to Hua Hua's side. Hua Hua caressed Bailey Hongzhuang's hair. She looked as affectionate as if she was her biological grandmother. Since you've already become my disciple, I'll pass on all my skills to you. From today onwards, you will cultivate during the day and learn medical skills from me at night. You will learn while soaking in medicinal baths. Medical skills are very useful, but as a cultivator, strength is also the foundation. You have to be prepared to suffer, the flower said in a deep voice. Master, don't worry. I'm not afraid of hardship. Huater nodded in satisfaction. These days, she had been observing Bailey Hongzhuang's temperament. She was very satisfied with this girl's wisdom and temperament. She was neither arrogant nor rash, nor would she belittle herself. She was extremely hardworking in her cultivation, and had never complained about it. She treated them with respect and kindness. This kind of girl, no matter where she was, would be liked by everyone. Of course, Di Beichen and the others were all very good children. As the saying goes, birds of a feather flock together. None of them were bad. It was just that she and Hongzhuang hit it off the best. The other little fellows obviously had no attainments in medical skills. As for learning from scratch, it was not very suitable for these little fellows. Chapter 60-23. Hongzhuang, did Granny Hua accept you as her disciple? Shangguan Ying could not hide the joy on her face. Her happy expression made everyone think that she was the one who succeeded in becoming Granny Hua's disciple. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. Yes, Granny Hua has already accepted me as her disciple. From now on, I will learn medicine from Granny Hua at night. That's great. Shangguan Ying's face was filled with envy. Hongzhuang, I really envy you. Not only are you beautiful, but you're also smart. No matter where you go, you're very likable. You too. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Although I know you're comforting me, your words are very useful to me. Shangguan Ying blinked her eyes and looked at Wen Xiren thoughtfully. I feel that the strength of the several seniors is very strong, beyond our imagination. Didn't Di Beichen say that Senior Yu and the others might be experts who live in seclusion? Now that Granny Hua has accepted a disciple, shouldn't we also work hard to please the seniors and become their disciples? As Shangguan Ying's voice fell, everyone looked at each other, and their minds suddenly became lively. That's a good idea. I think we can give it a try. Xiren's eyes lit up. Previously, Xiao Soa was already proud of having a master who had been to the immortal domain. If we have a master from the immortal domain, wouldn't that be even more amazing? Looking at the situation, you seem to have a plan. Di Beichen's lips curled into an elegant arc. His voice was pleasant and magnetic. Xiren nodded. I feel that among the seniors, Senior Yu is the easiest to please. As long as we buy more delicious food for him, we'll be able to win him over sooner or later. Although the seniors had also given them pointers on the direction of cultivation, the effect of having a master or not was completely different. Just like how Hongzhuang had also received pointers from Granny Hua. But when Granny Hua wanted to teach her something important, she chose to accept her as her disciple. In fact, the seniors didn't really teach them anything. They just casually gave them pointers, and it was already very helpful to them. If they really gave them pointers, wouldn't it be even better? Beichen, what do you think of my idea? Xiren asked expectantly. Di Beichen placed his right hand on his left and tapped his chin with his slender hand. Not bad. Xiren's expression changed. If you say it's not bad, then it's definitely not a problem. However, it's not enough for you to rely solely on bribing Senior Yu's approval. The magnetic voice sounded again, and Di Beichen's expression became more serious. Although Senior Yu usually looks very easy to talk to, he won't easily accept a disciple in this kind of matter. The most important thing is sincerity. Of course, flattery is also very effective to a certain extent. Hearing this, a trace of seriousness appeared on Wen Xiren's face. You're right. Actually, Senior Yu has always been very good to us. I want to go and sound him out. If there's hope, we have to fight for it. Speaking of which, Zhongli Mu is the one that we envy the most. Bai Li Yanche suddenly said. As soon as these words came out, everyone had a look of agreement. The seniors had watched Zhongli Mu grow up, and had undoubtedly taught him all their abilities. That was why Zhongli Mu's strength was already so abnormal at such a young age. Why don't we acknowledge Zhongli Mu as our master? Haha. Saying this, Xiren couldn't help but laugh. Chapter 60-24. Forget it then. Xiren waved his hand. He had already accepted the fact that Zhongli Mu was so young yet so powerful. However, if he acknowledged Zhongli Mu as his master, he would not be able to survive in the future. Regarding this, he actually felt that it was natural. Zhongli Mu lived in the abandoned immortal forest. Whether it was the cultivation resources, or the density of origin energy, it was better than the upper realm, let alone the lower realm. Moreover, Zhongli Mu had such powerful masters to teach him. It would be strange if he was not powerful. However, no matter how big the gap was, they were not afraid. After all, they had always been on the path of counterattack. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest were working hard on their cultivation, the situation in the Jun family was gradually becoming bleak. As more and more time passed since the end of the ancient battlefield, Jun Hongcheng and the rest became more and more anxious. This was because they had not seen Jun Lingxuan's figure return yet. Their original confidence had been gradually worn down by the passage of time. Jun Hongcheng's expression became uglier and uglier. Even though he had been comforting himself that Ling Sun was definitely still alive, it had been so long, and he still had not returned. Even he could not find any other reason. How could this be? Xiao Suo was in disbelief. At that time, everyone had already left. The people who went to the Di family to inquire about the news also said that Di Beichen and the rest did not kill Jun Lingxuan. In this way, it was impossible for the Qing devil to die. Then why did he not return? Xiao Yanlong's expression was as gloomy as water. All of his plans were completely destroyed when the Qing devil did not appear. Although the Jun family's strength was still there, even the young master was gone. This was a huge blow. Jun Hongcheng had 2 sons in total. Now both of them had died. So, do you know what is going on? Xiao Yanlong's voice was low. This situation was as if someone had ruthlessly slapped him in the face. He was directly slapped back to reality. Xiao Suo's face was pale. She looked as if she had lost her soul. It was as if even she was unwilling to believe that such a thing had happened. I don't know either. It is obviously impossible for him to die. So, he doesn't want to be Jun Lingxuan? Xiao Yanlong's expression. In fact, this was what he was most worried about. As a powerhouse in the immortal region, he could do whatever he wanted in the entire immortal realm. When he was strong enough, he could return to the immortal realm. There was no need to live as Jun Lingxuan with so many restrictions. If Suo was always so confident, he would not have rushed to the Jun family's residence in such a hurry. But now, once this news spread out, their reputation would be completely gone. No. All the blood drained from Xiao Suo's face, and her voice became hoarse and trembling. Impossible, he wouldn't abandon me like this. What's impossible about that? At this moment, Xiao Yanlong was not in the mood to care about Xiao Suo's emotions. He hasn't come back for so long. His meaning is already very clear. I think there's no need for us to continue staying here. What if he still comes back? Don't think about it. We need to think about what to do next. Xiao Yanlong's face was stern. Now he was also very upset with Xiao Suo's decision to break with the Di family. If it were not for this matter, their family would not have been affected at all. Chapter 60-25. Looking at Xiao Yanlong, whose face was already full of anger. Xiao Suo did not dare to say anything more, even if she still believed that Qing Devil would definitely come. When Jun Hongqing knew that Xiao Yanlong was about to leave, he was also a little nervous. Brother Xiao, are you going to leave now? Why don't we wait a little longer? Brother Jun, my family still has some things to deal with. Xiao Yanlong forced a smile on his face. When Ling Xin comes back, you can send someone to inform me. So let's go. Xiao Yanlong strode forward. Recently, he had been waiting here for so long that his blood was boiling, and he felt extremely bored all day long. Now the situation was even more chaotic, especially when he thought of how proud Jun Hongqing was when he told him about the big plan. But reality gave them a cruel slap. After suffering one blow after another, the Xiao family could not take any more blows. If this continued, even if the Xiao family had many years of heritage, they would not be able to hold on. Jun Lingxuan had already died, and the marriage alliance was naturally a bubble. With the grudge between the Di family and the Jun family, they would not let the Jun family go. If he asked for peace, for the sake of so many years of friendship, there might be a glimmer of hope. So, I'm going to visit the Di family soon, Xiao Yanlong slowly said. Hearing this, Xiao Suo was suddenly stunned, and a strong sense of astonishment appeared on her face. She widened her eyes, and her expression was dull. There was a bit of fear and uncertainty in her voice. Father, you're not planning to go to the Di family to ask for peace, are you? Now the Di family is unstoppable. If we continue to be enemies with them, we'll just be digging our own graves. After all, Di Yijue and I have been close friends for so many years. Although we did break up recently, as long as we are sincere, maybe he will let us go. Xiao Yanlong's expression was solemn and serious. He was naturally unwilling to do such a thing, but he was the master of the Xiao family. For him, his face was not the most important thing. The family was the most important. If losing his face could bring stability to his family, he would not hesitate to do so. No. Xiao Suo refused without hesitation. Bailey Hongzhuang's face flashed through her mind. Bailey Hongzhuang was usually very arrogant in front of her. If the Xiao family asked for peace with the Di family, then in the future, even if Bailey Hongzhuang was arrogant in front of her, she could not say anything. In the face of someone who had taken everything away from her, how could she possibly swallow her pride? Impossible. She could not do it. Father, it's impossible for them to forgive us. We've been trying to kill them all this time. How could they forgive us? Apart from losing the face of the entire Xiao family, doing so will not help the entire matter at all. I firmly oppose it. Looking at Xiao Suo's angry face, Xiao Yanlong's face also turned red from anger. The anger that he had accumulated over the past few days burst out at this moment without any hesitation. Every word was sharp. You still have the nerve to say that. If it had not been for your rash decision back then, the family would not have fallen into such an awkward situation. If you had the power to become the saint of light, everything could still be turned around. However, you've done nothing well. Now the entire family has lost so many cultivators because of you, and we've suffered such a great blow. You still have the nerve to say that you don't agree. Chapter 60-26. Xiao Yanlong's uncharacteristic roar caused Xiao Suo to stand dazedly on the spot. Her face was pale, and her eyes were filled with panic. It was as if she never thought that Xiao Yanlong would reprimand her in such a manner. Ever since she was young, she had always been the apple of her father's eye. Even if she had done something wrong, her father had never been willing to speak too harshly to her. However, at this moment, he had actually reprimanded her in such an unceremonious manner. He did not even leave her any face. Father, why are you? Xiao Yanlong no longer had his usual patience as he stared at Xiao Suo's heartbroken and tearful appearance. Instead he sighed, filled with self-blame and regret. In the past, I had indulged you too much because you were the saint of light. This identity was enough for you to look down on all heroes. That was why I had not properly disciplined you all these years. You are the apple of my eye, but you must understand that we are not only burdened with our personal happiness, anger, sorrow and joy, but also the development of the entire family. If you had not made such an impulsive decision back then without discussing it with me, you would not have ended up in such a state. Even now, you still haven't thought through everything? Xiao Yanlong could not help but feel disappointed. If there had been any other way, he would not have made such a decision. Now that all their paths of retreat had been blocked, they had no other choice and had lost their best opportunity. It would be extremely difficult even to find other allies. He hoped that Xiao Sou could be reasonable and put herself in the position of the entire family instead of making an unreasonable fuss based on her personal preferences. Xiao Sou stood there in a daze. Xiao Yanlong's words were like a basin of cold water that had been splashed over her body. She felt a bone-chilling chill from head to toe. She had never faced this problem head-on. She had always thought that she was the eldest daughter of the Xiao family. Even if she had lost her identity as the Saint of Light, she still thought that she could do whatever she wanted. She had never thought about how much her father had shouldered for her. All the veils of shame had been pulled off, and when the truth was exposed in front of her, she finally understood that she was no longer the same person as before. Her protective umbrella was gone. Xiao Yanlong did not say anything else. He was also inseparable from the fact that Xiao Sou had turned out like this. If she was still unable to understand at this point, he would not say anything else in the future. Xiao Sou followed closely behind Xiao Yanlong, but she looked as if she had lost her soul. The heavy blow was like a sharp blade that had stabbed fiercely into her heart. It felt as if blood was gushing out continuously, but she could not let out a cry of grief. So her father's words as words, but she really could not accept it. After when Xiren and the others made up their minds to become apprentices, Yu Hong and the others noticed that the frequency of these little fellows fawning over them was increasing. Yanlong's heart and, with Yanlong's eyes is he. S with him with her with his, yend. E. With he's. Of. He. With him. Hers is eyes. The abandoned immortal forest was rich in medicinal herbs. Every morning, Bailey Hongzhuang would search for herbs in the vicinity. Chapter 60-27. Other than that, Bailey Hongzhuang had also started to learn how to concoct potions for cultivation. Granny Hua could be said to have taught her everything, not hiding anything. Moreover, she also knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was never someone who only cared about herself. She had taken so many herbs with her, and she had probably given most of them to her family. Now that she saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was so interested in concocting potions, and that she had purposely picked the herbs, she understood this girl's plan. Being concerned about one's family was sometimes a burden, but sometimes it was also a strength. As long as it did not affect her cultivation, she would not have any objections if the young people were willing to work harder. Only by enduring the hardest of hardships could one rise above others. Under such circumstances, Bailey Hongzhuang had become the busiest person among all of them. Even if it was Di Beichen, he could only speak a few words with her when they were cultivating together. At night, she had always been alone with Grandma Hua to study. Time passed slowly, and after a month, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest returned to the Di family. In this month, everyone's cultivation did not improve much, but they were getting more and more familiar with this sword technique. For this reason, Senior Yu had specially instructed them. When they could use this sword move at will, their battle prowess would not be comparable to ordinary cultivators of the same level. Not only that, they had to learn how to control their power during practice. How to use the least amount of elemental energy under the same power was a kind of knowledge in itself. It might not seem like much, but precise control had endless uses. It could even save one's life at a critical moment. Therefore, everyone trained hard. If they wanted to gain senior use recognition, they had to at least master this technique. Otherwise, how could they have the face to become his disciple? Beichen, I've been learning from Granny Hua recently, and I've also concocted a lot of potions. Granny Hua has been helping us prepare the potions on a daily basis. So let's leave these potions in the family. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled as she took out the potions. She was very satisfied with her results in this month. Although these potions were very simple in Granny Flower's eyes, they were of great help to the cultivators of the upper realm. These medicines can be used as rewards for the younger disciples. They are very useful. When I learn a better potion, Father and the others can use it too. This elixir was meant for cultivators at their level of cultivation or weaker. Diyujue, and the others obviously had no use for it. However, being able to increase the strength of the clan's disciples was also an extremely good thing. Taking the medicine from Bailey Hongzhuang's hands, Di Beichen smiled. My wife is really virtuous. You even help me manage the family affairs. Staring at the pair of eyes that were overflowing with laughter, as enchanting as a fog, Bailey Hongzhuang's face reddened. I didn't. Shangguaninging covered her eyes. You two are showing off your love again. I can't stand it anymore. Yingying is right. When Xiren agreed. I can't watch it anymore. So you're still here. Di Beichen pretended to be surprised. Bailey Hongzhuang left a portion of the medicine for her Bailey family, and prepared a portion for the Bailey family. Mu Lingbing was very happy to see Bailey Hongzhuang come out of seclusion. Madame D just sent some cultivation resources a few days ago. You're sending more so soon. Chapter 6028. Yu Linfeng's face, which was as warm as the wind, rippled with a comfortable smile. His bright eyes were like stars. I originally thought that our cultivation speed was already fast enough, but who would have thought that your cultivation speed would be even faster? Ever since they came to the D family, they had been cultivating in seclusion for the sake of increasing their cultivation as quickly as possible. As their elders, they couldn't keep dragging them down. However, they had spent so much time and accumulated countless cultivation resources to increase their cultivation speed. Yet, these little fellows had gone out to gain experience, yet their cultivation speed was much faster than theirs. It was simply terrifying. Master, you're already in the nebula realm. No one dares to say your cultivation speed is slow. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled sweetly. Her lovable appearance made everyone's mood unconsciously improve. If we weren't lucky enough to encounter the divine statue this time, it would be impossible for us to increase our cultivation like this. Beichen and I have already discussed this. Now that you're in the nebula realm, the family will often have opportunities to go out and gain experience. After coming to the upper realm, you've always stayed in the family and haven't gone to many places. Go out and gain experience and relax. Who knows, your cultivation might increase even faster. Even though she had been cultivating all this time, she had always been concerned about her parents' situation. Cultivating in seclusion would increase their cultivation speed, but they also needed to relax. Originally, they could also go to the abandoned immortal forest, but it was very dangerous. Recently, cultivators from the immortal region often appeared there. Even they couldn't guarantee that they could escape unscathed if they encountered them. Nebula Realm cultivators had even less of a chance. Lan Yunxiao and the others looked at each other. In truth, they also felt that their cultivation speed had slowed recently. After staying here for so long, they also wanted to go out and take a look. If there's a suitable opportunity, we'll go take a look. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded with a smile. Although Lan Yunxiao was her father, it wouldn't be a problem for him to go out and gain experience with the others. A cultivator's lifespan would increase as their strength increased. Even in the D family, there were many cultivators of the same age. None of them gave up on increasing their strength. Almost every once in a while, the D family would organize people to go out and gain experience. This was because experience was often the best medicine to increase one's strength. Hong Zhuang, the medicine you took out this time seems to be different from the last time? Nangongwu looked at the medicine in her hand. The color was completely different. After using the potions earlier, she realized how effective they were. Without these potions, their speed of improvement would not be as fast as it was now. However, at that time, although Hong Zhuang had given them a lot of potions, the speed at which they used them was extremely fast. They had not used them for quite a long time. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. The effect of the medicine this time will be better than the previous one. The usage method is still the same. The medicinal bath will help to relax the body and improve the cultivation. Understood. Nangongwu raised her eyebrows slightly. Hong Zhuang, your medical skills seem to have improved recently. Although I don't know much about this potion, I've heard people say that this potion of yours is amazing. In the entire upper realm, I'm afraid that we're the only ones who have used this potion. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Recently, I have indeed been learning medical skills. When my medical skills are higher, everyone's cultivation will be easier. Chapter 60-29. Bailey Hongzhuang's clear eyes lit up when she sensed his deep concern. She walked over to Lan Yunxiao's side and sat down. Father, don't worry. I'm fine. You're a girl, yet you're so tired all the time. My heart aches when I see you like this. It was already very difficult for him to cultivate on a daily basis. Not to mention that he had to study medical skills. Everyone seemed to have it easy, but as her father, he knew how hard Hong Zhuang worked. Otherwise, how could she have mastered so many things at such a young age? Mu Lingbing noticed Lan Yunxiao's pained expression, and her heart softened. They only had one daughter, and their biggest wish was for Hong Zhuang to live happily. I really like my current life. As long as you're happy, I'm happy. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. She was never someone who didn't know how to be content. Now that her family, lover, and friends were all by her side, what was there for her to be dissatisfied with? Although her daily cultivation was tiring, she liked this feeling of fulfillment. She hoped that no matter what kind of danger she faced, she would have the ability to protect the people she cared about. Everyone was delighted when they noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's smile that spread from the bottom of her heart. Perhaps in other people's eyes, Hong Zhuang was truly blessed, but they understood that all of this was related to Hong Zhuang's hard work. When Di Yujua took the medicine from Di Beichen, he was also surprised. Hong Zhuang refined it? Di Beichen nodded. Hong Zhuang said that these medicines can be used as rewards for the younger generation. As for the medicine you all use during cultivation, she will refine it when her medical skills improve. Di Yujua smiled and patted Di Beichen's shoulder. His voice was filled with joy. You stinking brat. I really don't know where your good fortune came from to be able to find such a good wife like Hong Zhuang. Father, you can't be envious of this. Di Beichen shrugged. Scram. Di Yujua waved his hand. Brat, you even dare to make fun of your father. Di Beichen chuckled and asked, any news from the Jun family? Your judgment is correct. Jun Lingshuan is not coming back. The Jun family should be in a gloomy state right now. Jun Hongcheng is probably so anxious that his hair is about to fall out. Di Yujua's eyes flashed with a trace of ruthlessness and decisiveness. Now that the Jun family has suffered a great blow, the Xiao family seems to be on the verge of breaking off relations with them. We'll destroy the Jun family first once we officially break off our relationship with them. That way, we'll be able to put an end to all the grudges that have existed for so many years. After so many years of enmity, It was no longer something that could be explained in a few words. They had long since become irreconcilable enemies. Now that they had the advantage of time, place, and people, they naturally wouldn't show mercy. If the situation had been reversed, the June family wouldn't have shown any mercy either. There was no need to say anything else. The Xiao family wants to break off relations with the June family? Di Beichen's voice was indifferent and emotionless. That's right. Di Yujua's lips carried a trace of ridicule. Now that the situation has changed greatly, the Xiao family can only make such a decision if they want to find a way to survive. If the Xiao family asks for peace, what do you plan to do? Betrayal is betrayal in the end. Being forced to surrender is deceit. Di Yujua's eyes were deep, reflecting a sharp light. Di Beichen nodded. Then I don't need to worry. The June family's situation was within his expectations. It was just that the speed of their collapse seemed to be faster than he thought. Chapter 60:30. I've never doubted my father's decisions, Di Beichen said slowly. Di Yujua looked at Di Beichen's old-fashioned appearance and was too lazy to say anything more. This guy was clearly his younger brother, but he looked much more mature than Xiaofeng. Just as the two were talking, Di Xiaofeng's figure suddenly appeared in their line of sight. Di Beichen, you're here too. Di Xiaofeng's face lit up. That's great. I don't have to run over to inform you later. Big brother, what happened? Big news. Di Xiaofeng's expression became serious. I just heard the news. You definitely won't be able to guess what happened. Don't keep us in suspense. What happened? Di Yujua's eyes narrowed. Right now he was planning to find the right time to uproot the Jun family. He didn't want any more complications to arise at this time. I'm afraid the Xiao family and the Jun family won't break off their relationship. Di Xiaofeng's expression was a bit heavy. This wasn't good news for them. The reason why he had such an expression was because this matter was too shocking. Di Yujua's expression changed when he heard this. What happened? He already understood a lot of the current situation. This break was imperative. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be any waves. Xiao So is pregnant. Di Xiaofeng's words were like a heavy bomb that exploded in Di Beichen's and Di Yujua's hearts. The two's expressions froze for a moment with a bit of disbelief. Xiao So is pregnant? At this moment, even Di Beichen couldn't help but be surprised. She's pregnant with Jun Lingxuan's child? Di Yujua's expression became very ugly. If it was anything else, there might be a turning point. But if Xiao So was pregnant with Jun Lingxuan's child, then this alliance couldn't be broken up. Even if Jun Lingxuan had already fallen, the child in Xiao So's arms was the only flesh and blood he left behind. Presumably, Xiao Yanlong was also extremely shocked when he heard this news. But he couldn't ignore Xiao So's face. Previously, Jun Lingxuan and Xiao So were indeed engaged, but they weren't married yet. Now that Xiao So was pregnant with his child, their reputation wouldn't be good. If they broke off with the Jun family at this time, Xiao So would have no future. With how much Xiao Yanlong loved Xiao Yanlong, he probably wouldn't be able to make the decision to ignore it. Di Xiaofeng nodded. This news is very secretive. Our spies found it with great difficulty. It is said that Xiao Yanlong had already made up his mind to break off relations with the Jun family. But after this incident, he has not left the house for a few days. It seems that there's a change in this matter. Di Beichen's voice was slightly heavy. This matter was beyond everyone's expectations, but the one who was the most shocked was Xiao Yanlong. I'm afraid we'll have to consider this matter at length. The three of them looked at each other and felt helpless. The whole plan was disrupted just like that. Father, even if they form an alliance, we don't have to be afraid. Di Beichen's expression was calm. Originally, After the Xiao family had done so many excessive actions, they didn't plan to coexist peacefully with the Xiao family. They were only prepared to break them one by one. Now that they were together, although the process would become a lot more troublesome, the result would still be the same. Chapter 60:31. Di Yujue turned around and saw Di Beichen's determined expression. His heart trembled slightly. It seemed that Di Beichen was also determined in this aspect. I'm not afraid, but it'll be more troublesome. Di Yujue frowned and fell into deep thought. Dealing with them is inevitable, but before that, we have to try and see if we can open the land of heritage. As soon as he said that, Di Beichen and Di Xiaofeng looked at each other. They were also very curious about the land of heritage. It was an inheritance that belonged to the Di family, but it required 3 families to work together. He originally thought that once the alliance between the Xiao family and the Jun family was broken, it would be very easy for him to obtain the secret key from the Jun family. But now, it was probably not appropriate to directly seize it. In addition, the Dark Sanctuary was about to be established soon. It would not be good to cause more trouble at this time. Father, why don't Hong Zhuang and I try and see if our blood can open the land of heritage? Di Beichen said slowly. He had never come into contact with the land of heritage, but he had a faint feeling that they might really be able to open it. Your blood? Di Yujue pondered and said. I also think that it's feasible. But even if your blood can awaken the land of heritage, the 3 secret keys must be combined to open the door to the land of heritage. So before that, I need to think about how to solve this problem. Di Beichen nodded slightly. He understood this point. If it really didn't work, he would directly abolish the Jun family and the Xiao family. However, the 2 old foxes, Jun Hongcheng and Xiao Yanlong, would definitely be on guard. Actually, the land of heritage hasn't been open for a long time. It's also been a long time since a cultivator with the cursed body appeared in the family. Beichen, your appearance made me feel that the opportunity to open the land of heritage has arrived. Now, everything is making me feel that the possibility is getting higher and higher. This is the family's secret that has been passed down to this day. I believe that after you go in, you will definitely gain a lot, so you must not give up this opportunity. Even if we have to keep them here for a while, we won't hesitate. Opening the secret realm is the most important thing. Di Yujue's expression was serious. Because the Di family had the land of heritage, the cultivation talents of the clansmen would be favored by the ancestors. This was also the reason why the Di family had always been so powerful. It was just that the land of heritage had not been open for too long, so this advantage was gradually disappearing. Luck was something that couldn't be explained in words. In the past, he felt that the luck of the Di family was gradually dissipating, but with the return of Beichen and Hong Zhuang, he felt that the luck of the Di family had returned. Not only had he returned, but he was also becoming stronger and stronger. With this sort of powerful fate, there were many things that he did not dare to do in the past, that he did not have to worry about. Because karmic luck was such a mysterious thing, with its help, everything would proceed much more smoothly. Looking at Di Yujue's bright eyes, Di Beichen's lips also raised into a smile. Father, no matter what, we will support your decision. He understood that as the head of the family, his father had to consider many more things than them. But no matter what, they would not question Di Yujue's decision. That's right, you can rest assured. Our Di family is no longer the same as before. The Holy Maiden of Light and the Holy Son of Darkness are with us. What do we have to be afraid of? Di Xiaofeng chuckled. Holy Son of Darkness. Chapter 6032. When Bailey Hongzhuang first took out the medicine, Diyujue had given a portion of it as a reward for the outstanding disciples. Therefore, many cultivators in the Di family knew that this medicine was extremely effective. Cultivating, while soaking in the medicinal bath, was much faster than usual. Moreover, the refined elemental energy was very pure, and could even subtly refine the elemental energy in the body. When they first received this medicine, everyone felt that it was strange. After all, most medicines were only effective in the early stages of cultivation. As one's strength increased, the medicine would no longer be effective. However, this medicine had completely overturned their judgment. Its effects were better than they had imagined. As a cultivator in the Di family, everyone knew that the most important thing was not the improvement in front of them, but the space for their future development. As long as there was unlimited space for development, it didn't matter if they had to spend more time. If one's cultivation speed was too fast, their elemental energy would not be pure enough, and their foundation would not be stable enough. These were problems that almost every cultivator would encounter, because there was competition everywhere in life. Sometimes they had no choice but to ignore these hidden dangers. However, when they realized that this medicine could gradually solve the hidden dangers in their bodies, their hearts were filled with joy. The only regrettable thing was that there was not a lot of medicine, and the family did not have any other way to obtain it. Otherwise, they would not hesitate to pay a higher price. It was only when everyone knew that this medicine was concocted by the young mistress that they completely understood. Perhaps only the young mistress's medical skills could concoct such an amazing medicine. If it was anyone else, they would not be able to do it. The young mistress had gone to the ancient battlefield to train, so they naturally did not have this medicine. This time, when everyone knew that the family had another medicine as a reward, they immediately understood that it must be the young mistress's doing. Most importantly, from the news that spread, they understood that this medicine was more effective than the previous ones. Immediately, all the cultivators began to work hard in their cultivation in order to obtain this medicine. Yujue, the disciples in the family seemed to be working harder in their cultivation recently. Di Linxian looked at the prosperous scene of the Di family and felt comforted. After Beichen and Di Yujue returned, the family's situation was really getting better. Even though everyone was usually very hardworking, he could still feel that everyone was working even harder. Di Yujue's eyes were also filled with satisfaction. Speaking of which, this matter is all thanks to Hongzhuang. Is it that medicine? Di Linxian had heard about the medicine long ago. He had a deep understanding of his granddaughter-in-law's medical skills. Back then, there were countless people who came because of Hongzhuang's reputation. They were either stopped by them or asked Dr. Wu for help. This medicine was only circulated within the family. If it were to spread out, it would probably cause another wave. Di Yujue nodded. That's right. The effect of this medicine is excellent. The younger generation is working hard to cultivate in order to obtain this medicine. Hongzhuang is really a smart girl. Di Linxian sighed and said, this is also due to your contributions. If you didn't have the courage to reject the Shao clan back then, this wouldn't have happened. Chapter 6033. If they had chosen to have a marriage alliance with the Shao family, then the situation would have been different. Di Yujue chuckled, his gaze deep and distant. Actually, this was Beichen's choice. With Beichen's feelings for Hongzhuang, if we asked him to give up on Hongzhuang, I'm afraid he would abandon us. A smile appeared in Di Yujue's eyes. He understood Beichen's character very well. Perhaps he had taken after him. Being born into a family, it was already very difficult for him to cultivate. If he couldn't even let his feelings follow his heart, then what was the point of living and pursuing? It was because of this that he had never thought of restricting his child's feelings. Even when he was engaged to the Shao family, he didn't say that it was a dead end. He had also said that the most important thing was to see his child's wishes. If the D family wasn't in a disadvantageous situation back then, he wouldn't have chosen to have a marriage alliance. Following D Yujua's words, D Linxian couldn't help but laugh. I agree with what you said. Even if Beichen was wholeheartedly doing it for the family, they were very clear that none of them could compare to Hong Zhuang in his heart. Haha, D Yujua laughed. That's why I said that Beichen has the best taste. While the D family's cultivators were working hard to obtain the medicine, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were also working hard to cultivate in the abandoned immortal forest. They only cultivated one move every day, but everyone's progress was very fast. Now, everyone could use this move, but there was still a gap between them, and how easy it was to use it, as Senior Yu had said. Everyone could clearly feel their progress. Every day that they practiced, their speed would increase by a bit. Although they still couldn't control their strength easily, under the influence of others, everything was quietly improving. Bailey Hongzhuang studied medicine every night, while Di Beichen began to study formations. Previously, he was already quite interested in formations. His wife was so skilled in so many methods, so he had to work hard. Beichen, you've been studying formations quite seriously recently. When Ziren looked at Di Beichen teasingly, do you feel a sense of crisis because Hong Zhuang is too outstanding? Bai Li Yanche also smiled and said, there is no danger in the upper realm, but once you go to the immortal realm, there will be countless powerful geniuses. Big sister is so beautiful, so it's easy for her to get into trouble. In addition, she's so outstanding. When the time comes, she'll definitely be like a crazy bee and a butterfly. You won't be able to stop her. It's only right for her to feel a little threatened. Di Beichen turned to look at the two guys who were looking at him with interest. From their expressions, he sensed that they wanted to see the world in chaos. He continued to practice the formation and said unhurriedly, one of you is despised by Madam, and the other hasn't won her heart yet. How can you understand my happiness? I didn't say it, because I didn't want to hurt you. When Ziren and Bai Li Yanche looked at each other, their original playfulness had completely disappeared. They suppressed the urge to beat him up and turned around. They'd better continue to soak in the medicinal bath. No one could compare to this guy when he was showing off his happiness. Di Beichen's lips slowly curled into a teasing smile. His eyes, which were as deep as the sea, were filled with seriousness. Under the light, his devilishly charming face became even more noble, exuding a charming charm. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.